Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome. Good to see everybody tonight. Looks like it's just going to be the wife and I, my other co-pilot.
Co-pilot.
She's worshiping coffee again.
I'm the navigator.
Yeah, the navigator. Technically, it's usually reversed. Usually I'm the navigator, and I do a bad job of it. Usually you're the one driving.
True. Yeah. No, but you do a good job.
I don't know what I do a good job of, but apparently I do.
Oh,
So,
usually you're the onboard DJ, so.
yeah, well, that's just because I like having too much control over the sound. So hello and welcome, everybody. Sorry we're a little bit late. Every once in a while, OBS decides to, and it's not really OBS, I use Streamlabs, but that's an OBS, whatever, like it uses OBS as its underground, whatever the background of the program is. Well, for whatever reason, Streamlabs and OBS, but Streamlabs has this occasional problem where it just won't pick up my video, sharing like with Skype, or it doesn't even matter what it is. It just doesn't recognize anything and just acts stupid. So that's why I took a little minute. So I had to do a quick workaround. So it's a little sloppy. I got a different setup than usual. I'm not able to look at the screens the way I like to, but this will probably be okay for tonight. It's not really too big a deal. So yeah, on that note, hello and welcome everybody. I see we got the usual people. We've got Nature's Wrath, what's up? We got Blade and Cloak. We got Atropa. She says, darn it, she got here on time for once, and there's technical difficulties. I think it's your fault, Atropa.
I think, no, there's technical difficulties every week.
No, there isn't. I've got it down to to a sort of a science, a pseudoscience at the very least. Roderick Cortez talking about EA for some reason. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Skeleton Power, what's up, Skeleton Power? Nina the Mystic, the Blue Wrench, my darling. What is up, Nina? Good to see you.
Well, they're talking about EA because someone mentioned that Blade and Cloak mentioned that EA stream also had tech difficulties this week.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I see that now. Yeah, Blade and Cloak said that. Yep. And let's see, from the Cauldron Witch, what's up? She's talking to see everybody here. Rocking the hair. Yeah, I decided to let the hair down tonight because I just wasn't in the mood to try to pin it up. I was sort of in a rush and I was having technical difficulties, so I just figured I would just leave it down tonight, which is unusual for me. I don't usually leave it down. I'm a little too, like, I guess I'm not as laid back as I seem. I'm kind of uptight. I like having my hair pulled tight. Ooh, that sounded kind of hot. Don't get too excited. So yeah, everybody check out Nina's channel, by the way. Nina's really a big help here. She does every week almost. She comes in and she's got a very good channel. She talks about some good stuff, and she's been having a lot of interviews with EA, so I'm actually really happy to see that. She's doing a good job there.
Awesome.
Yeah. Vince Cashmere, thanks. What's up, Vince? Good to see you too. Psychic Humanera, or Humira, excuse me. Psychic Humira. And a Serial Crabat, what is up? My good old friend Larissa Tybark. A Serial Crabat. I like the way he reverses his name all over the place, and it's like, which one's the right one? Sortiarius Occult, what's up? Finally caught a stream. You've caught my streams before. But yeah, good to see you too. So, there's a lot of noise. I don't know what's going on out there.
Oh, the oil burner just clicked on for the hot water.
Why would that turn on? The heat's not on.
Because we used the water today, the hot water for the shower.
But that was like 4 hours ago?
The washing machine and the dishwasher and... yeah.
No, I think they have noise suppression on Skype if you want to look for it. But anyway, not a big deal for me.
Since Cauldron Witch is here right now, I do want to showcase what I've been working on for that little project of hers.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I got so far. Am I still on?
I think you're still on. Yeah.
Oh, okay. The screen grayed out, so I wasn't sure if you could see me.
Can you still see you? I mean, I see you.
I can see me now. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Yeah. So I got right in the middle. I did some little. There we go. Okay. There's angel wings made out of azurite, and we got the celestite in the corner, and bordering that is more azurite, and around the edges of the whole thing I have obsidian. I'm super excited. I'm nearly done.
It's coming along good.
And this is going right in the middle of the angel wings too. This is a little, got turn it the right way. It's hard because it's mirrored. Little sigil.
Shouldn't be mirrored.
Well, for me it is. It's the left is right thing. Yeah. So I'm excited.
I think it looks great. And From the Cauldron Witch keeps saying, "Oh my God, it's gorgeous. She loves it. You rocked it." All right, good. So
Nice.
she's happy. So
Good.
whew, you can raise the price again. No, I'm kidding.
Well, you know what it is? It's like, I've been thinking, how am I going to decorate this? And I started popping out ideas and gluing some stones on. And of course, I do my best thinking in the shower. So the other day, I hop in the shower and it just pops into my head to add the angel wings at the bottom.
One of the reasons why they say we do our best thinking in the shower is because some people believe water is a memory device. Like it's how we connect to higher consciousness through water. Because water, if you look at the water molecule, the oxygen and the two hydrogens, they actually form what's basically a 108 degree. It's very close. 108. I think it's like 106 degrees technically, but it's almost 108 degree perfect. Golden triangle, and 3 golden triangles is the pentagram, interestingly enough. So it's like three water molecules in a way. Cauldron Witch says she paid it. Don't worry, we're not going to raise the price. I was being a jerk. But basically, that is, some people believe that means it is connected to higher consciousness. Now, I don't, you know me, I don't like to get superstitious, but it is an interesting connection. So it is something to think about. You have to remember that the oracles at Delphi, they would submerge themselves in like a subterranean pool where, very faint levels of nitrous oxide would be bubbling up from the subterranean caverns, and they would be basically high off their ass in these hot springs underground, and prophesizing. So there's something to that, at least, somewhere in there's something to that. So it's very interesting. So Serial Krabat says, how's inflation going in the States? Our government is driving our economy down a cliff right now. Exactly. You are exactly correct. That is by design. This is not by accident. They want everybody to be driven to the point where they will accept whatever they want to give you. Now, it's not an immediate thing. This isn't like everyone sitting here watching the situation is going like, oh, this is it. This is where all the money collapses and blah, blah, blah. Well, my knowledge of this says that this is a stepped approach, and you're going to have several bumps. They do want to get us off of the petrodollar. They want the world off of the petrodollar because it empowers the United States too much, and they want a globalist system. The United States can't be trusted in their mind to run things because the United States, with our pesky constitution, it's a little hard to screw us. Our law prevents certain levels of, they're still doing it anyway, but they can only get away with so much. So they are screwing us as hard as they can here, but our Constitution keeps holding up, and even with what they're doing, there's still hope that we can stop it here. But so long as the world is stuck on the petrodollar, which means pretty much everybody, as long as everybody's wealth is connected to that, they can't get what they want. Plus, they want to switch over to anything other than oil and petroleum and fossil fuels, for many reasons. One of them is obvious. They want to control the supply of energy. If they can control the supply of energy, they control everything. This is why all the Gulf Wars happened. It is all about the control of energy. Literally the control of energy for the world. China, of course, has deposits of rare earth. They're making all the batteries and everything else, and they love China for a lot of reasons. So there's a lot of layers here, but they are absolutely trying to crush the entire Western world, because the rest of the world is also screwed. They sort of want to, instead of trying to raise everybody up, like my philosophy is I try to raise people up, like everybody, because the way I see it, as they say, the rising tide lifts all boats. I like to see everybody prosper. I don't want to see people down. But their idea of fixing things is to just flatten everything so that everybody's sort of equally miserable. And so no matter how you slice it, no matter what country you're in, the next 6 to 12 months is going to be anywhere from a bumpy, inconvenient ride to an absolute hellscape of dystopian proportions. If you're in the third world and the good thing about being in the third world, ironically enough, is you probably are more capable of subsistence farming. You probably know how to do it. And you'll probably get by. You're used to famines, right? But if you're in the civilized Western world, you're not used to it. Even my wife and I were used to, she works at the nursery, I work at the nursery. And I can tell you right now that we are not prepared to have a big subsistence garden in our yard or anything like that. We wouldn't, as much as we might have more skills than average on growing things, and we have greenhouses and stuff that we could access. Having a subsistence farm is more than just planting a few rows of potatoes and shit like that. It'll help, but you need a lot more than that.
You need something for all year, not just for the growing months.
Right. And now like potatoes will help, because potatoes literally can sit, if it's cold, like a basement, if you got a cool basement, potatoes will keep for months. Like, you don't have to do anything to them. And you can continually just replant and regrow those. Like,
onions for the most part too.
Yeah, a lot of beans too. But we're not looking, like, most people can't do that. Like, most people wouldn't even know where to start, and I barely know where to start. My dad will be fine. My dad's been like farming for himself for a long time. He was feeding himself just on his farm for a number of years. But most people don't know how to do that. Of course, my dad's like pretty much disabled now. So, but yes, you're right, Serial Cravat, and it's not going to stop. The only time it's going to stop is once they have depressed everyone's economy so much that they can offer their solution. They use the Hegelian dialectic. They cause problems, then they offer solutions to those problems that they can control. Those solutions are almost always, if not 10 times always, at your peril. It is, look at what happened in the United States after 9/11. We suddenly had Patriot Act, where you couldn't have privacy, and all this other crap was pushed into place. And that's pretty much what they do. And they're doing that here.
Check inside your asshole.
They want to check inside your asshole, sir. And you also have to realize, I don't know how much you know, Serial, about Klaus Schwab and the Great Reset and the World Economic Fund, World Economic Foundation. If you are sort of left-leaning, which I don't know if you are or not, but if you're sort of left-leaning, like a moderate leftist, or we'll say libertarian left, you're not like a crazy woke person, I suggest you look at Russell Brand. Russell Brand illustrates what's going on very well. I don't care whether you're left or right. He does a supreme job of exposing rationally, with facts, with evidence, everything that's going on. He's not insane. He's very clear. He's not a right-wing fanatic. He's none of these things. He is literally, in a lot of ways, he's the kind, I wish that's what the left in this country was represented by, would be people like Russell Brand. If that was the case, I would vote for them. I would be happy with them. Like, that's what I want, is people like that. We don't have that, though. We have a bunch of maniacs here right now. So, that's unfortunate. But check out Russell Brand. He doesn't come off like a lunatic like a lot of people on the right. There's a lot of people on the right I respect, that I like to listen to, but I'm further along in the insanity spectrum than some other people. But if you're sort of in the middle and you want something rational, Russell Brand is excellent. I can't recommend him enough. And you'll get a pretty good idea of where this is going just by watching him. That'll get your feet, you'll know enough that you won't think I'm crazy. But this is all by design, and it's not going to go anywhere, especially if you're in Europe, especially if you're in Germany, which is like the centerpiece of the EU. That is meant to be one of the three major dimensions of power of the coming triumvirate of the globalist system. Germany is the capital of the EU, basically. I know that's not always what people think, but you can tell by which countries lead what. Germany's pretty much the center of it all. And so you being in Germany, you're like right in the heart of the beast over there. So I don't have much advice, I really don't. Ben Shapiro, Sarah Kirkbot brings up Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is one of those love-hate characters for me. I am not conservative, obviously, at least not in that way. That doesn't mean that none of the conservative opinions appeal to me at all. It's just that I am not morally conservative on really any level. I do draw a line in the sand with child grooming. Like, I don't know why that's a big thing for people currently who consider themselves liberal to be defending what other people are identifying as child grooming. I don't understand that. I don't see them as the same thing. I don't see LGBTQ as being in any way related to, you know, half-naked people dancing in front of children. I don't understand why that's being shoved on people.
Receiving
Like that's
money
somehow.
for it.
What's that, honey?
Receiving dollar bills.
Yeah, and all that. I don't see how that's connected. I really don't. That's an adult form of entertainment. I think it's perfectly valid. There's nothing wrong with it. But I wouldn't want to bring my child to that any more than I want to bring my child to a burlesque show, even if it was fully clothed. It's just not my
It's
thing.
in a strip joint. It's in a strip joint. It's not in a park. It's not in a restaurant. It's in a strip joint.
Yeah. Yeah, so Ben Shapiro, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of people, hell, there's people on the far left that occasionally make sense. So, I mean, it's not that, it's not just because he's like on the right or conservative. It's just, he's sort of like a munchkin, and I don't hate and I don't love him. My cup of tea is more like a 6-hexenhammer. My cup of tea, if we're going to go crazy, is like a salty cracker or something like that. But I'm more of a 6-hexenhammer type, and that's where 6-hexenhammer and Russell Brand, if you want the sensible version of things, listen to the two of them. What's that?
Razor Fist.
Well, Razor Fist is good too, but he doesn't talk politics as much. He's more about cultural
not as much
stuff.
anymore, no.
Yeah, him and Razor Fist and the Quartering are very good for cultural stuff. I think that they're really good. So
Quartering's good too.
from the Cauldron, which says LGBTQ, let's get Biden to quit. I mean, obviously, you know who my friends are. I have absolutely I can't stand that I have to say this. Like, I have to hold up a shield. This is my friends are this. I mean, I consider myself like the token straight guy for so many people. So, you know, no Vex Valentia. I didn't say sticks, X and hammer. It's sticks like the river, hex and hammer, hex and hammer, hex and hammer, HEXXEN hammer. So it's like, well, it's sort of like a reference to Norse mythology, actually. He does a lot of occult videos too. He's actually quite popular. But in all honesty, you know, those are just like entry points. Those are just like portals. I see Anesh says, I consider myself past their views. I agree with you. I'm past that too, but I'm talking about just for, if you want people to watch that talk about current events and gets them pretty good, then they're decent, you know, especially if you're an entry point. Like if you're somebody who's going, Thorne's saying some things that I'm now realizing make sense, but I don't know what's going on. Those two channels would be, actually all four of those channels that we just mentioned would be really, really good. And Styx in particular, I like because he's all over the map with interesting ideas. I would love to have a conversation with him about magic and metaphysics, although I know we would disagree on certain things. I absolutely adore and respect his mind and would love that conversation. He's forgotten more than I know because he's edited hundreds of books and he's published hundreds of books that are public, you know, books, what do you call it? Public domain books. So like all the old classics, he's published and republished those with very simple edits, you know, which some people would say is kind of silly because all he does is just like, you know, reformat them and edit things and stuff. And he makes $1 or $2 on each one, which isn't that much work, but he's got to read it all to do that. So I
was going to say, you know, going back to like my college days, that's how I studied, was rewriting words.
Right. I mean, that's a lot of what you do.
Take notes sloppily, rewrite it when I get home. That's how I remembered half my shit.
Yep. That's true. So people are saying, one person said, who was it? Nature's Wrath said, Germany always seems to be the heart of world domination plots for some reason. Why is it that they always talk like freaking a serial robot? We got to get a serial back on again sometime. They always talk like that. They always have that, you know, the Bond villain thing going on. What's with that? I don't know. Gogo says, DHS Thorne, Berlin is power and politics, London is economy, Paris military. Good way to put it.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things the EU definitely wants is not just a defensive military, like a defense force. They want the ability to project military power. That is coming. Okay. So that is coming eventually. When, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they use the Russia situation somewhere down the road as the main reason for having their own standing military in the EU that could take the place of NATO, basically. Like in other words, instead of America, because America's going to pull out of that. You watch, whether it's Trump or somebody else, America's going to pull out of that at some point and pull back our support because we're going to have an economic downturn or something crazy. We're going to pull back. I don't know when, I don't know how. At the very least, Trump will pull us back. And you're going to see like that'll be a major, excuse for the EU to have a military. That's my prediction. I don't know if it's going to come true, but it's what I expect somewhere down the road. So yeah. Lord Malphas, ask a question if you like to know something. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Lord Malphas, President Malphas is one of my favorite goetic entities because it is, of course, one of the several demonic versions of crow / raven, spirit energy, spirit animal in the Goetia. And it's one of my favorites because it's really, it's like a scout. It's like a spiritual scout, so it's really interesting. Gogo says, DH Thorne, but Vatican is the boss. I mean, yes and no. I don't think you're wrong. I think that they're a major player. I think that one of the things that they do is make themselves look unimportant to the outside world. They kind of look like they're just like leaders of this and that. But I don't believe that there is like a religious, some people are going to name certain groups that shall not be named simply because you immediately get, shadow banned for even mentioning certain groups. People will think that you're like a Nazi or racist just for even mentioning them, even if it's positively these days. So I don't like to sit here and point fingers at any religions or anything like that. But of course, people from all different sorts of backgrounds are part of this, and that is undeniable. Actually, one person told me an interesting theory is that this is sort of a continuation of things that the Gnostics were warning us about. That is very interesting if you know your Gnostic traditions. So, yeah. Very interesting. And yes, Lord Malphas, President Malphas is actually, although I haven't been, shall we say, very attentive with him in a little while, President Malphas absolutely represents a lot of the things that work for me, especially as early warning. I would say that for quite some time I was using my awareness of him as early warning for a lot of things, and it worked very well. So President Malphas is badass. Yeah. President Malphas, indeed. And that is the crow spirit, right? And President Malphas is the encapsulation of like the darker side of the crow spirit, one of them. And there's several different encapsulations. And crow spirit, raven spirit, they're all sort of the same thing. I guess, people would have known the difference between a raven and a crow, but on some level they sort of were like variations of the same animal to the ancient peoples. So, to sort of put them together isn't entirely improper. A lot of people, especially since we have a more modern idea of what animals are and what different species are, I guess there's a little bit more differentiation between them, but they're very, very powerful. So there's several others, and they all do different things, but there's different embodiments of the crow spirit. It's and Jay Baldale, I think I said that right. Baldale, I'm not sure if I said that right, brings up Stolas, and Stolas is obviously like, the owl entity in there, and there's several of them, Behemoth X, what's up, brother? He says, someone told me my buddy DH Live was going to go live. Well, I had to show up. Hello, friends. Damn, brother, your hair is so long, so metal. You know what's funny? Last night, I got a small story to tell. I don't know if I should tell you this, because I told my wife, I'm like, I don't want to bring this up because people are going to say that they cursed me or something. So last night I was coming to bed and I had noticed that I'm getting just like a little streak of gray in my hair, like the first streak of actual gray in my main hair. Like I've always had gray in my beard. I've always had salt and pepper for like forever. Like even when I was like a teenager, like I'd find gray hair in it, like streaks of it. It was really weird. I think it's because I have like scars or something, but not major scars, just like little ones from when I had chicken pox or something. Yeah, the hair on my head's always been like pretty much jet black without any, not jet black, but dark brown without any effort. And like I was checking my hair, I was like, oh no, like a little gray streak. And I'm like, now here's the thing. I don't mind if I go a little gray, but I don't like that part where you get like the skunk stripes. I really don't like that.
My uncle had a skunk stripe. He had long hair, pretty much jet black, down the middle, white.
Yeah.
Because he would pull it back into a ponytail.
Yeah. The Seagogo says, do you think David Icke tells us, I'm not sure I understand. Do you think David Icke tell us all that will happen? Oh, well, let me go back to the Behemoth. So let me go back to my story. So the other thing was, my wife and I have been going bike riding a lot lately, and we go to this one spot where there are lots of ticks, and I got a a deer tick. So I had to get medication just to make sure I don't get Lyme disease, which is like a first for me. I never really go to the doctor. Like you pretty much have to like, well, you have to give me like a potential disease for me to go to the doctor. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But pretty painless, except trying to convince them to like not wait till I show symptoms. Like, just give me the damn antibiotic so I don't catch this shit. Like, I don't want to have to come back in 6 months. I'm gonna take this and like I'm not gonna show back up unless I'm sick. So.
Are you sure it was a deer tick and not the coof?
Yeah, right. Like, oh, that was the other thing. Like, while I'm standing there, like, I could have my arm broken in 14 places with the bone sticking out, and they would still be asking me how many fucking times, you know, have I had the coof injection and shit. Like, that's all they cared about. It was literally every third question was about what was wrong with me, and every other question was about that. So it was like, coof this, coof that, why are you here? Coof this, coof that, coof this. What do you need? Coof this, coof that, coof this. Do you need this? Do you need that? And it just got like really, really ridiculous. It really got ridiculous. And it's interesting because Lyme disease ticks, they sort of come from, oh, you crashed. Okay, well, it'll hopefully pick you back up when you come back in, Miss Violet, Miss Camilla. So when you're ready, just call back and we'll take the call. So, yeah. All right. Well, you guys can watch my other screen while we wait for that. One of my favorite pieces of art that I found online, by the way. That's my desktop background. So, yeah, but ticks can absolutely kill you. You know, there's no question. Oh, there we go. Boop. There's the chicken for the Camilla. There she is. Don't do that again. No crashing.
I back?
You're back.
I'm back.
I don't know when it's going to pick you up, but you are back. You are
back
for sure.
All right. Let me know when I'm back, and I'll make my joke that I made.
So Behemoth says, you can always shave it, my friend. That's metal too. I agree with you. The minute I start going bald, like for real bald, like I mean, I've noticed like I get like little patches where it's like, I think it's thinning, but it's really just got a ponytail. So it's yanking out and I let it grow in and it grows in. If I ever start going bald, like really receding, I'll probably just shave the whole fucking thing. You know, I did this hairstyle because I've always had long hair and I always had like a full head of hair, and it always just felt like too much. I have a round enough head as it is. And like, I was like, nah, I want to get like that mohawk look. I want to get that. And so I did that, and there's kind of no going back from that unless you just kind of let it all grow in, or shave it all and start over. So you never know. One of these days I might do that, but that probably would be next. I've often said that the final layer for me is to just shave the whole damn thing and start over. So just let it be bald or something. You know, I like tribal looking hairdos. Like,
I don't
like
want you
just
bald.
No comment. But anyway, well, you might not have any choice, honey. I'm not gonna sit there looking like some kind of old samurai dude with like my hair all back and like a
Ventura.
Yeah, like a back of the head.
The ponytail in the very back.
Have you ever closed the car door on your hair? Not in. I mean, my hair got down to the small of my back. I think the longest I ever got it, and not even then did that ever happen because I always keep it. But I have got it caught on things. Like my coat has like a button on the back or the middle back of my back, and like my hair will wrap around that and get caught. That's not fun. It's really funny when you're like, you look really badass with your long hair and you're stuck to your coat. It just doesn't work too good. Thorne, did you ever have dreadlocks? I never will either, probably. No, I never did. I've thought about getting braids. You know, I thought about getting various different kinds of braids, cornrowy braids, more like, you know, warrior braids, whatever you want to call them. Again, I spent a number of my formative years, we'll say, in the wrong side of the tracks type neighborhood. And, you know, to me, like, someone was like, why would a white guy get cornrows? I'm like, I don't know, because like little girls when I was growing up were giving them to me like when we were sitting on the porch. So it's not that weird. I didn't actually wear it for long, but they were doing it. Like they'd get and I'd be like, what are you doing? And they were like, half my head would be braided. I'm like, no, take it out. So it's not that weird, I guess. But Heidi braids, yes, Heidi. I'll do Heidi braids with this little bit of hair. What I should do is just one big braid in the middle, just one big, like, you know, Fu Manchu style, like Manchurian braid going back.
We'll give you a Dutch braid.
Give me one Dutch braid down the back. That'd be good. Yeah.
Going back to your coof thing that you were talking about with the urgent care. Remember that joke I told you?
Well, then tell it. I don't remember it.
You don't remember it?
Go and tell it. Why are you asking if I remember it? Just tell it.
So I was looking for a lead-in, okay?
Oh, okay.
So we're sitting down for lunch afterwards, and he's going on about all these questions that they were coming up with, and I said, why didn't you just tell the doctor to hold on a sec, and then ask if he could skip the cutscene?
Yeah, it was like it was like a big long cutscene. So, oh yeah, speaking of all that, so it is tentatively in the works. I've already got the go-ahead from the organizer. I've just got to make sure my wife and I don't have anything going on. But it is looking like the meetup, for those of you who are interested, we got enough people here to hear this. We are planning a meetup at the end of September. Approximately September 30th is the current plan. There's an event in Newark, New Jersey. There's a goth club out there called QXTs, and we're thinking about doing an event there. So that would be a cool place just to have a meetup as it is. But there's actually every month there's a group of people. There's this person I know on Facebook called Madam X, and she runs Iron Garden. And Iron Garden is this sort of monthly get together where they have all kinds of interesting people in the occult and creative community and alternative spirituality and all that get together, and they do like a 2 or 3 hour meetup, where they have like a keynote speaker, and they have some people who do presentations. So I'm going to be most likely accepting that and doing that September 30th. I will make a more formal announcement soon once I know 100% sure that my wife and I are going to be able to make it. I'm pretty sure we can, but I just want to make sure all of the problems are out of the way.
All the ducks are in the row.
And all the ducks are in a row. I don't see why I wouldn't be. I told her I'd let her know by early next week at the latest. So you'll probably get a more formal announcement next week. But if you're interested in attending that, you don't even have to worry about letting me know. But if you want to stay abreast of what the plan is, getting a hold of everybody would be a good idea. If you go to the Discord server that we have. The Discord server can be reached by checking the description of this video, following the Linktree link, and it's like near the bottom it says Discord server or something like that. Click on that, get accepted to the Discord server, and join the channel in the Discord server, East Coast Meetup channel. And
join us, you want to.
And that's how you can stay abreast of everything that's going on. Everybody likes breasts, so join that, and we'll talk about it. No Lord Malphus, I do not live in anywhere near Trenton. No, no. Just kidding. I don't know. I you know what it is? I also, when I was younger, I suppose I reminded people of Silent Bob a little bit, and somehow having like a whole Jersey thing going on sort of made sense. No, I'm a Long Islander, so like there are some similarities, I suppose, if you're from far enough away. Long Island and Jersey, we definitely share a dialect a little bit. Those we got enough of those Italians here with that accent. So get that the South Shore Long Island and the coastal New Jersey. It's like they must like travel by water, and there's a lot of similarity. That's why we don't like each other, interestingly enough. But no, I don't go to Jersey much. I don't like Jersey very much, actually. I'm a good Long Islander. We don't like Jersey.
Jersey smells.
It does. It absolutely does. Don't pump your own gas. Probably not in New Jersey. You're probably right. Yeah, you're probably right. Well, I don't know. They just rescinded the bullshit in every state that was a May issue state. So pretty soon it's going to be shall issue everywhere. So,
yep.
I might have a weird bulge in my pants or under my shirt or something coming soon. So we'll see, more than I already have. So a little bit less worry. But yeah, no, we'll make sure we have plenty of gas going out there so we don't have to pump our gas out there. Yeah, no, we'll avoid that. Newark is kind of like, I guess if you compare it to parts of New York City, it's about average what I'm used to. I know that there's worse spaces like Camden can be pretty bad. So how many people live in your city? In my city? Well, I don't live in the city. I live on Long Island. And the part of Long Island I live in is a dense suburb.
Overpopulated.
Yeah, it's definitely overpopulated. It's definitely uncomfortable. I was used to this area when I was a kid was just right. It was just enough people. It wasn't any more houses or anything. It wasn't more built up, but it was like now you have, I guess, for various reasons, houses will have 5 families living in them down the road from us. And so everybody's got a car, and it's like, it's getting absolutely ridiculous. So we want to move away from here, although I will miss the North Shore a bit. I want to get away from here. I don't like, it's like too much pheromone overload, too many people, and I'm just getting sick of it. I can't stand it anymore. So
It takes pretty much a half hour to go 2 miles down the road.
it's getting, yeah,
In
especially
a car. It's quicker
like-
to ride your bike.
it's quicker to ride your bike, or it's about the same. Yeah, it's about the same, if not quicker. And that's bad. Like, that's how you know it's getting bad. And at night you can get to that, like at night you can go downtown, across town, whatever, in a fraction of the time because there's no cars on the road. It's just the lights that slow you down. So it's kind of sucky. So yeah, it looks like a lot of people are going to be able to make it. Atropa's going to make it. Psychic Humara says, Humayra, excuse me, I'm going to keep saying that wrong. So they live about an hour from New York City. So that means you're like 2 hours from Newark, I guess, right? So, or not even really,
Depends
because
on the
Newark.
direction.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. They're almost like right next door. So Newark and New York City are pretty close. So yeah, sounds like you can probably make it. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, from the Cauldron Witch, I would say that it's like Los Angeles. Like, look at the map of Long Island on the satellite view and look at LA, and there's definitely similarities. I think LA is a little bit less green than we are, but it's so built up, especially where we are. We're like in central North Long Island, that it's like, I feel like I live in a strip city, like a strip mall city. The suburbs are really pleasant, but you only have to walk a block or two and it's strip malls, and it's just, it's lost its charm. All the little small mom and pop.
Vacant strip malls.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is half of them are empty because nobody can afford the rents. So it's like, it's not doing well.
And then they build new ones.
They build new ones. Yeah. Yeah. It's not good. It's really not
They're
good.
empty too.
Gogo says, I asked because all my country have only 3.9 million people. That's interesting. That's interesting. That sounds like very pleasant, unless it's like all on like a little postage stamp island or something. You know, that's pretty cool. Yeah. 3.9 million, I think it might be them. I don't know. Cause I don't mind telling people the general demographic, the general region I'm in, but the exact specific town I don't like to do. But I will say that I am in the from, we'll say, Cold Spring Harbor to Port Jeff part of Long Island North Shore. And if you can find me in that big of a swath, you definitely have a gift, and I would be honored for you to find me if you've got
The
a
North
gift.
Shore, because the South Shore, shucks. I can't
Yeah, the
say
South-
that. That's a tongue twister for me.
Yeah. Yeah, the South Shore has some things that are good about it, but
Yeah, but no, it's all backwards down there. It's backwards country.
The cool thing about this plan, though, anyway, is that the event itself is like $10 to get in, and the club is 20 after. So we'd probably be doing the event for the 2 hours, and then afterwards we'd filter into the club and do the hangout there. And then if that worked out, who knows? Maybe people could hang out again in you know, maybe we'll make it a regular thing. A couple times a year, we'll do a Thorne style club meetup or something. Because I would love to have a goth club I could go to. The only problem is Newark, especially with these Biden gases. It's a little bit much to get there once a month. Even once a month, that's a bit much. I'm not rich, guys. That's a little bit.
At least it's not as bad as California, where our son says it's over $7 a gallon.
$7 motherfuckers yes, for a gallon.
$7 a gallon at the next, which is the Navy Exchange.
Which is already cheap.
And that's cheapened.
So Hecka is asking, what is Camilla doing? He wants to know what you're doing. Is that glue or resin?
Resin.
That's resin.
Doing it the final coat.
Oh my God, this is where it all hits the road. I suppose you can't really screw this part up, because even if you do it wrong, you just pour more on, I guess.
Yeah, you just pour more on. Another coat.
You see this Cauldron Witch? It's getting finalized. This is where like the final coats are going. Look at that. I don't know what else she's got planning, so.
I just have to glue on the sigil after this, and then hangers and the lucite.
The actual mirror part, yeah.
Yeah. That's all easy stuff. Really, most of what it is waiting time. Waiting for this to cure, waiting for that to dry.
So Lord Malthus is asking, what is she sealing or epoxying? Armor, art? So these are, if you go to our Etsy page, we don't have too many up right now, but there is a product from my book Shadownomicon, which was a mirror design that I created for Shadownomicon. And it's really just a triangular mirror. Like, that was to represent the fact that, you know, gateways are, there's really two forms that gates generally take that are ideal. Some people say circles, not really. They work, of course, but the two most common gateway shapes are triangles or yonis. You know, the yoni, the feminine portal, right? Squeeze my fingers together, the feminine, the vajayjay portal. So those are the two, the triangle and the vajayjay, right? That kind of portal. And so this was designed to be a scrying mirror that was in a triangular shape. And for the one I made was just a very simple, like it was just a triangular mirror. I didn't do much to it. I just put a frame around it and that was it. Well, my wife got a hold of it and she made one of those. And then she started making them more and more ornate and more interesting. And that's and the rest is history. We put eyes all over them, cool shit. And so we started selling them. And we're doing yes, there's definitely that's for the Crow Witch. Yep. There's definitely a lot of different themes that she does now. And they're quite popular, actually. They've done very well. Like, we sell a lot more of those than anything I make.
Snakeskin.
Snakeskin. So, and they're good scrying mirrors. So they're unique. They're unique. Yeah.
And we like unique.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know what most people do when they make scrying mirrors and sell them, in all honesty, and I don't mean to disrespect the practice, but they will go to, say, Michael's or whatever store they can get cheap little either mirrors, or preferably they'll get picture frames. People will buy a picture frame and then they'll decorate it, or they'll paint the window glass in the picture frame. They'll paint it with black paint on one side and they'll call it a scrying mirror, and that's fine. But then they'll charge like $200 for that. My wife will charge $100 to $200 for all of the labor you're seeing there. She could probably charge double or triple, and she doesn't. She's really happy to just be doing this. So yes, it may sound like $200's a lot for a mirror, but when you consider what you often will pay for a scrying mirror, and they're not even fully handmade like ours are, whereas she literally makes the frames, puts them together, designs them, puts precious stones on them, and all kinds of stuff.
I do all the angles myself.
And do all the angles herself.
I'm proud of my angles.
She's proud of her angles. You know, that's not a bad deal, because you figure it's like anywhere from $20 to $50 in materials, so it's not a bad deal. But by all means, make your own. Like Psychic is saying she's going to make her own. I agree, make your own. Like, that's what we do. But if you lack the skill and talent, or you really like the artistry the artisanship that my wife puts into it, then that's what it's for. So. How many do we actually have up there right now? Do we have many up there right now? From memory?
Mini?
Any.
I'm saying one mini and maybe two large ones. I think that's what's up right now.
And you have a batch in production, sort of?
Oh yeah, I got more I'm working on.
Okay. So probably in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we'll have 10 more up. That's usually what she does, is a batch of 10.
I usually do them in batches because then it's easier for me to do all the listings at one time, and it's hard to have too many ready to go at one time because I just don't have any place to put them.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
This right here, this is my stock.
Yeah. We're not the most organized people on the planet. Trust me.
We don't have a lot of room to work with.
No, we don't. We are literally a cottage industry, literally.
Where I work is a borrowed space.
Everything here is a borrowed space. My goodness.
Exactly.
Yeah. Alex the Kid, what is the best way to invoke angels? Actually, my friend, who I haven't had on in a while, and I'm only hesitant to say his name because he is actually running for position in a state government right now this year, and he's sort of trying to keep his ties. He's been on the show before. I've had to take the shows down, unfortunately, but he wrote a very good book on angels. It's more of a Rolodex type of book, not a lot of detail on what to do, but certainly very good information about them. Generally speaking, working with angels is not really any different than any other spiritual entity, but it also depends a lot on you. The answer really depends on the individual and what really kind of helps you connect to them. My interpretation of things means that I have a very specific way of doing these things. When I say specific, I mean it is specifically, clearly a Thorne style, shall we say, although I don't have a specific method. The thing you have to get out of your head is thinking of it like it's a computer program or a machine or something that you've got to do a certain way. There's a reason why the ancient world, how shall I put this? In the ancient world, you go back to ancient Greece, okay? They would have people that would eventually become what we would call a thespian, a drama, arts type of person. Someone who's a good actor. And they would play the role of different spirits and gods in their various rituals. And it was more than just acting like them. They would invoke that spirit when they were doing that performance. So if you were going to the Eleusinian, going to experience the Eleusinian mysteries, where they were reenacting the story of Persephone and Hades and Demeter, then you would actually have these people who would invoke those spirits while they did their performance, and do it that way. So the way that I work with spirits is sort of a blend of whatever technique I feel like at the time. Sometimes I will go for a walk, right? Something as simple as just going for a walk. Other times I'll feel it come on and I'll just sort of sit there and let it happen. But what I usually do to sort of make the process better is I will role play it. Like if I'm having a little trouble making a connection, I will role play it. I will start off. Sometimes that means I get really into it and I'll get dressed up and I'll do a ritual and I'll do all this other stuff. Other times I will do it in my head. I will role play the scenario in my head. But whatever it means is I play both parts of the conversation for a little while until the other side stops being just what I think it is. In other words, so let's say I'm contacting literally any spirit, okay? I might start off talking to myself, playing both sides of the conversation, visualizing the spirit, maybe talking with me, maybe in another part of the room, and I just make it more real. Every time we have an exchange, it gets more real. I add more detail, and I made that spirit more real in my mind's eye or in my environment somehow, okay? And then at some point, my imagination stops having any kind of feeling like it's doing it, and it's like something else takes over and starts speaking through my imagination. And so it'll start off with me going, hello, Lucifer, hello, Thorne, and I'll sort of be playing both sides of the conversation. But then after a while, Lucifer will start talking like Lucifer literally to me, and I'll start getting information, sometimes in the form of conversation, sometimes I just realize something. What they would call a download, right? I'll just suddenly know something. I don't need to have... One of the problems that people have in, we'll say the psycho-spiritual community, whatever you want to call it, is that they think of this stuff like it's in the movies or in video games or in TV shows or fantasy stories or anything like that. They think that it must be something that looks like some kind of a virtual reality overlay. Like you should be sitting here and the world looks the way it does, and then all of a sudden Lucifer's sitting, like perched up on your kitchen counter laughing at you or something. Like it's got to be real or else it's not real. And this is a misunderstanding, partially because of all of the pop culture references that we have that sort of instill in us this idea that it's got to be hyper real for it to be real, and that isn't real. That doesn't mean you won't see it that way, though. I got to be very strict when I say this and very emphatic. Just because that's not what makes it real doesn't mean you won't have that experience. It just means not having that experience doesn't mean you didn't have a real one. What you have to understand is that, now, of course, this is my metaphysical worldview. Now, it's based upon not just my thinking or reading and believing. I don't believe a word I'm telling you. This is going to sound kind of funny till you understand what I'm getting at. I do not believe a word that I'm telling you. I have experientially verified what I'm about to tell you. As a non-dualist, that means that I have encountered the non-dual in a literal fashion. When I say I mean I have, through intellectual negation first, I have dissolved all intellectual belief in myself, in meditative presence, shall we say. And then the next step is through meditation to dissolve and sort of combine the subjective objective reality until only I remain. And that I is pure consciousness, conscious of itself. There's no belief required. You literally, that's all that can be true is consciousness. once you've achieved that, and of course that's just a matter of speaking, there's nothing to achieve. Once you've realized that non-dual reality, then you can then ask the question, well, what is reality made of then, right? What is this thing that I see? If this thing can come and go like a dream, well, what is it? Well, it must be a kind of dream. Okay, fair enough. Well, if it is a kind of dream, why does it have the structure it has? Why does it have the repeatability? Why does it have these different qualities? Yes, of course, that's all happening in my awareness, so it's suspect. But yet it's still there. Why do we all agree that there is some level of, when I say repeatability, I mean like self-symmetry like in a fractal. Now, I know Twilight Sun Shaman of Lilith is very into Gnosticism, and so they're going to love what I'm about to say. But I have found that Gnosticism specifically isn't what I believe in. However, the Neoplatonism, Gnosticism, certain versions of philosophical Judaism and Hinduism all utilize a principle called emanationism. Now, emanationism can be like a literal form of emanation, like it's literally something emerging, like exploding out of the source. And then there is other ways to look at it, that there's nothing actually happening, that it's more of a perceptual emanation. I'm on the perceptual emanation spectrum. Like, I believe that the best way to describe this is not that reality is emerging from something, but that reality is, and then consciousness experiences itself in a way that can look like emergence or extrusion or explosion. And I would actually submit to you that the modern theory of the Big Bang is a form of emanationism. It's just a modern updated version of it, where instead of layers of different principalities and spiritual beings that are sort of ejecting from the source, you have epochs. Yes, John Stone, just like the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah is exactly a version of emanationism. Absolutely correct. So there is, the Big Bang could be thought of as a form of emanationism. It's just material emanationism, because it starts with a primordial atom, the source, which then in the dimension of time and space, not just space or supernatural space, emanates from that source and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Where we are, of course, is near the leading edge of that growing infinity. Now, that is not specifically what I believe in. Again, like I said, when I say believe, I mean believe the best way to describe. The best way to describe, I think, is to describe it as manifestationism, which is sort of like a special case of emanationism, where instead of something emerging out of physically or supernaturally out of something, it is a static, like a frozen object, and consciousness can observe it from different, shall we say, dimensions of awareness. If you're in a very limited mortal frame of reference, then you see a very mortal material world. If you pull back a little bit more, you see it a little bit more clearly, to the point where you see all things, and that all things experience looks like no things. When you see everything, when you see all time and space, all possible dimensions, anything that can be, what does that look like? Well, it looks like nothing. It would look like nothing. If you could see even just this video, right? If you could watch this entire video all at once, what would it look like? It would look like nothing. It wouldn't even look like a flash. It would look like nothing, because without time, when something is timeless, there is no motion through time. It looks like nothing, right? So, again, difficult to describe, and I don't want to say too much, because a lot of my next book, if I ever finish it, is based on a lot of things I'm talking about. And it's sort of like a reboot of Become the Maelstrom. So that's going to be kind of important to people at some point. But yeah, so let's see. Twilight of Sunshine says, I can't listen to you too much, brother, because you break any attempts of me creating separation for myself and anything else. I guess that means that we resonate a lot on a lot of things. I do know that we tend to do that. So what are spirits? That's what I was sort of getting at, is what are spirits, okay? Spirits are personifications, just like you're a personification. You think that you're a person, you're not, okay? Well, you are a person, but you think a person is real. Maybe that's the better way to put it. Person, if you trace the root word of person all the way back, it literally means mask, okay? It's talking about a mask. A mask for what? You know, person is literally the mask that had a loudspeaker projector in it, like the way they used to do them, where it was like a little funnel shape, and the mask had a little funnel shape in it. When the actor would speak, it would project their voice out. So the person is literally an actor's mask. Persona means an actor's mask. So when someone says I'm a person, they're saying I'm a mask. A mask for what? What are you a mask for? Well, for the true self. What is the true self? Well, if you're a non-dualist, the true self is the ultimate divine, the absolute divine. There is no separation between anything. It is all one divine being. There is no source that you need to escape from or be the enemy of. But there are deities, and that's what you are. That is, when I say you, I mean that's what your ego is. Your ego is a form of a deity. There are deities that claim they created the world. They didn't. They're liars. Like, this is why I like Gnosticism. One of the things from Gnosticism I borrow is the principle of the demiurge. The principle of the demiurge, I don't believe in the exact mythology of the demiurge. I don't think even the Gnostics did. I think that the mythology of Gnosticism, if taken literally, is like reading Genesis literally. It's not very useful. I think that they understood it metaphorically, that Sophia represented wisdom, and she gave birth to the demiurge without her partner, which was ignorance. Okay, ignorance is what she gave. Wisdom gives birth to ignorance. Knowledge gives birth to not knowledge. Okay, ignorance was the demiurge. Okay, the demiurge comes out of wisdom, and ignorance doesn't mean stupidity. It means sort of a denial. Okay, the root word of ignorance is to ignore. If you ignore something, it ceases to be. So the demiurge ignores the divine and decides that it is the divine. That is the definition of ego. The ego pretty much says, I am what's real, not this, or that too, but I am real because I am real, and that's real too then. And there's a relationship that forms at best. The ego says, I am God, I am God, I am God. But that's not God. That's just something taking credit for what the divine is. And the Twilight Shaman says, yes, the demiurge is super ego, bingo. It's not just, it's both the self-ego personified as a deity, but it's also the collective ego. That is to say, egoism, like, you know, with all, right? With all. Now, spirits are personifications of these, what Jung would call an archetype, what a Gnostic or a Neoplatonist would call an aeon. I like the word aeon because it sounds cool and mysterious. But we'll say the demiurge has many different personifications. Every single religion has a demiurgical version of its pantheon. So you have Zeus, the good guy, who's really there to help you out and give you, you know, whatever he's a bit of a lecherous prick, but he's a good guy, right? Then you have, like, if you're more chthonic, you might look at Zeus as sort of like an asshole that's sort of, you know, not necessarily he's like a boisterous dick that bosses everybody around. So you have like the demiurge version of a spirit, and then you have like a different version. But most religions, especially monotheistic ones, a lot of them are ruled by a demiurge style entity. Christianity and traditional Judaism, I would argue, are both ruled by the demiurge. They are ruled by, well, the Gnostics called it Yaldabaoth. You could just call it Yahweh. Okay, Yahweh translated means I am, or I am that I am. That is the fucking ego. I am. Only the ego would say that. The divine just is. It doesn't say I am. It doesn't say I is. It doesn't even say I. It just is. It doesn't say anything. It just is, and it knows that it is, in the same way that consciousness is conscious of itself. So any entity that says I am, which is what Yahweh literally means, I am that I am, means that I am ego. Okay, so that Yahweh entity is the demiurge in the worldview that I work with. And that doesn't mean it's evil, by the way. There's different versions of this that say the demiurge is either misguided, well-intended, but wrong, or just purely evil and is absolute garbage. And you're entitled to whichever version of that you like. Although I would argue that any philosophy that believes in objective evil, not to say that there isn't things that we don't like evil, but objective evil, that is evil for evil's sake, something that's just evil, like the demiurge is evil. Okay, you're making it an enemy, which is exactly what the ego does. The ego is going to say, well, I'm being victimized by Yahweh, so Yahweh's the bad guy. That's not what's going on here. The demiurge actually serves a valuable and important purpose. Without the demiurge, the material world wouldn't be. Without the ego, the material world would not be. Does that mean that there wouldn't be this? No, that's not what I'm saying. The ego gives us a sense of relativity between the divine self, which is a selfless self, and the embodiment self, which is the perceived world around you. The ego gives you a point of reference. It gives you a point for consciousness to focus its attention on and thereby get into relationship with itself. Think of it like this, okay? Everybody sitting here right now, every one of you can do this. Right now you can do this, okay? Right now, anybody listening to me, you can center your awareness on your whole body and more or less take in all of your body at once. That doesn't mean you get a very detailed view of your body, but if you just quiet yourself and just sense your whole, you can feel a very vague sense of your whole body. But you can also concentrate your attention down into like the tip of your finger so that you're paying attention to the tip of your finger more than any other body part, sort of ignoring those body parts. So when you're in that totality state, that's the divine. It has no preference for any part of itself. But when you put your attention to the tip of your finger, that's like ego. Ego is saying, I am here now. I am not in this whole thing. I'm right in the tip of my finger. That's sort of like what it's doing. And if it does that long enough, it forgets that it has another part of its body. It really comes to believe, I am just the tip of my finger. That's an analogy, by the way. So the divine can believe it's the tip of your finger for a little while, if you will. So the end of the story that we're getting here is the demiurge is necessary. The ego is necessary. But the good news is ego isn't something you're supposed to be rid of. Ego is something that can become enlightened. Ego is something that can become liberated. It is something you can transcend. It is something that will never go away because egoism it's not real. So you can't get rid of it, but you can't also take it too seriously. Ego is something you perceive, and you can continue to perceive egoism without being beholden to it. That is to say, D.H. Thorne is a character I play. It's not who I am. When you're able to start doing that, you can start aligning the ego. When I say you can start, that's sort of a miscommunication. There's no other way to put it because language requires a subject and an object. You have to say, you have to put a noun before a verb. And I was just listening to Alan Watts saying that before we did this. My wife might remember. And so it was very cool timing. We always put a noun before a verb as if a noun can do something. The noun can't do anything, right? A noun by definition is just a thing. It has no motion to it. So how can something that doesn't move cause something? That's absurd, right? So it's got to have some quality of action to it. So that means nouns are kind of bullshit. But anyway, your ego, okay, can be aligned with the divine itself. Egoism can become aligned with the divine. And what that really means is not that you change what you do or what you believe. It's that you begin to understand that everything that is something the divine is. And when I say is something divine is, it also means something the divine is doing. So that means even your worst day, your dog gets run over by a forklift and your car gets exploded and someone drains your bank account and you get a tick bites you and you get Lyme disease. All these things that could possibly happen to you don't ever really happen to you, number one. And number two, that is what the divine is doing. There is nothing, the way I like to say it, I have a saying that I developed, which is, sometimes I say if, but you would say, if all is divine, then all is, if all is divine, then nothing is forbidden. If all is divine, then nothing is forbidden. And what that essentially means is there's nothing wrong. There's nothing bad and there's nothing good. Everything that happens, it's not even that it happens for a reason, because the divine doesn't need a reason. It's God, right? If you will, if you want to use the vulgar way of describing it, the divine is God. Does God need a reason to do anything? No, of course not. And that is what you are. There is no difference between your true self and that divine. Only the ego says, I am not divine, which is ironic because then it'll turn around and say, but I am God. That's the irony of ego. Ego will say, I'm not the divine. I don't want to be one with that thing. I'm separate. I'm my own self, but I am God. If you're God, you're all things. This is why it's such a silly conversation to have. So our practices, this includes theurgy and sorcery. Some people call that theurgy and thaumaturgy. Both of these practices are not meant to do what a lot of people think it does. A lot of people, because they haven't had a non-dual awakening, they haven't realized their divine self, their true self. They think that magic is there to cause outcomes, or that you're supposed to work with the spirit to get something, or maybe to learn something. If you're a little bit more advanced, you realize that spirits are there to teach us, right? They're guides of some sort. But they're not even real, right? The spirits are masks for archetypes. They're masks for aeonic. Aeons are distortions of consciousness. Think of it like waves in an ocean and the ocean's frozen. Well, each one of those waves is an aeon, and each aeon is covered with even smaller little aeons. And those little tiny ones are basically you. Okay, you're one of the little ripples on a wave. Okay, and you look at that and you go, "That's me. That little squiggle there, that's me." But that's just an idea. And that idea is just a distortion of consciousness. That's all it is. It doesn't exist as a thing. It exists as a distorted view of itself. So in the end, what all of this means is, if you're on this path, you work with things like theurgy to not cause outcomes, but to sort of leapfrog through the aeons, or leapfrog through the spirits, or leapfrog through the archetypes, whatever word you like, to dissolve the differentiation between yourself and them. So for example, if I work with Lucifer, I look at Lucifer and I say, wow, I want to be more like Lucifer, or wow, I'm a little bit like Lucifer, and you start to merge the two so that there's less and less distinction between you, till eventually you are a form of Lucifer, right? Lucifer and you are sort of the same thing. And that's what theurgy is really about. It's really about the gradual bringing together of what you thought was separate into one whole reality. And that bringing together in a dualistic sense means you're literally uniting the two, but in a non-dual sense, you're actually revealing that you've never been separated. You're realizing Lucifer and you are the same being, and you're both a mask for what Lucifer is a mask of, and Lucifer is a mask of enlightenment or liberation, or a shaman says he likes to call it Sophia wisdom, right? That's fine. Whatever you can use any mask to cover any aeon you want. That's the other beauty of the way I view these things. There's no way to sort of get it wrong. You can get it wrong for somebody else. If I try to impose what I think on someone else necessarily, that can cause a short circuit, because we have two different perspectives. We might be both looking at the same sunset, but we could be separated by thousands of miles. And if he sees it in a thunderstorm and I see it on a clear day, I can't tell him that he's wrong. We're both looking at the sun, though. We can both agree upon the sun. We can both agree upon the inspiring source, the aeon, the archetype, but how that appears to us could be completely different for each of us. He might see Lucifer as a fallen angel, and I might see it as, I don't know, Jesus or something, right? You might have two people seeing the same source archon, same source, not archon, but entity, aeon or archetype, that's a better word. Seeing the same source distortion and seeing two different spirits. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. People who say, well, that's not the true Lucifer because Lucifer looks this way. That's not how you say that spirit's name because that's not right. That's all egoistic posturing. It's all bullshit, and it never impresses me. And you know how I know that's not impressive? Because I've also learned through my practices how to set the precedent. I can create a perspective. I've done it before, I've done it again, and I'll keep doing it. You can create a perspective that then becomes the norm for everybody. You literally set the trend, if you will. That becomes the new norm, and that becomes, the thing. That's the irony, because it's not real. Look at something like Superman and Hercules, right? Now, the person who created Superman openly says they were inspired by Hercules. They're basically the same character. They're just in two different universes, but they're inspired by the same archetypal essence. Hercules isn't the original. Hercules was also inspired by something, and that was Hercules is kind of like, I guess you could say a little bit like Marduk in some ways, but Hercules, when you look at Hercules, that which Hercules is inspired by a archetype that goes way back in human history and has worn many different masks in different cultures and different times and became Hercules and is now Superman. Superman's losing some favor with people for obvious reasons because comics are getting dumb, especially with woke garbage, but you get the point. These things continue, all right? And they wear new masks with every successive age. Every 1,000, 2,000 years, when you have a turning of the celestial age, and you get, we go from the age of Pisces, from the age of Pisces to Aquarius, we're going to shift again. We're in Pisces, or leaving Pisces into Aquarius. So we had Superman and all that stuff. We're going to switch into something else at some point. And that's kind of the norm, right? I lost what I was trying to say. Where was I going with that? What was I trying to go with that? I've been reading the comments too. It's kind of threw me off. Where was I going with that? Where the fuck? Oh, and then sorcery. So theurgy is a way to recognize that you are the divine by comparing your own delusion of self with the greater delusion. You say, that's out there, that's not me. This is me, and it's not out there. And then you start to recognize how they're reflections of each other, and they go together like the front and back of a coin. And theurgy ends when you go, oh my God, I'm everything. I'm everything. It's all one thing. Holy crap. Then theurgy just becomes a game of just sort of like, I am this, I am that, I am not this, I am not that. And it becomes a fun game that you play with yourself. And it's take it or leave it time once you reach that point. Sorcery, which is what other people call thaumaturgy. Once again, I have the position that what people think is happening is more of a pop culture thing. They think that by doing a spell, they can bend time and space to give them what they want. That is the ego again. That is the demiurge. And the demiurge is based on ignorance. And ignorance says, I am here and I do things, when the reality is there's only the divine, and the divine doesn't do anything because everything is already done. The divine is eternal and is ever present and is boundless. It is everything that can be, will be, and ever was. That is what the divine is. That means that there is no time for the divine, which means if there's no time, there can be no doing. There can be no bending, no creating, no stopping, no starting. Anything that can be already is, and the divine gets to be that thing anytime it wants. So what that basically means is you can't create reality. You can't change reality. You can't bend or shape it. So what does sorcery do? What does thaumaturgy actually do? What does thaumaturgy actually do? What does sorcery actually do? What does magic actually do? Well, number one, it's not causal. It doesn't cause things to happen. At best, it would be considered acausal. What I prefer to say is that sorcery is a type of spiritual practice in which your egoistic desires are eventually trained to align with the divine will. People get it backwards. They put the cart before the horse and they say, I'm going to have my will decide to do this. That's a whole pile of bullshit. You can't make your will do anything. Your will is what's doing it, right? Have it like, which will is it then? Is your will subordinate to your will? Whose will is bossing itself around? This is nonsense. I am going to just will it so hard that it's going to happen. I am going to just, I'm going to use my will to channel energy and will this to happen. Who the hell is making your will do anything? Like, that's the part that's just, there is a complete cognitive disconnect. People don't seem to get it. They don't realize the egoism of that statement. They don't realize the delusion of that statement. What will be, will be. This does not mean, however, that you're at the mercy of anything, because that's ego again. Well, if whose will is it then that's doing it? If it's not me, then I'm powerless. The ego is powerless. Yes, that's actually correct. The ego has absolutely no power at all whatsoever. The divine is what is all powerful. The ego is just something that the divine is witnessing in itself. The ultimate reality is, if you're going into ritual or doing a spell to cause something to happen, that's fine. Go ahead. Go ahead and enjoy that practice. But the reality is, you're not causing anything to happen. You're sort of having a premonition of what could happen. So let's say I want to do a ritual for $1 million, okay? And let's say I do a ritual and I do everything right and, blah, 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 blah. And I know I did the ritual right. I felt it. The spirits said yes. My sigil was perfect. Everything's perfect. And the $1 million doesn't happen. Is that because my spell failed? Or is that because my ego was trying to boss around reality and reality said, no, I'm going to do what I want? The reality is, every once in a while, your egoistic desires align with the divine will in such a way that you have an uncanny feeling as if you caused it. That is when the magic happens. It's when you have that uncanny feeling like you were involved in the outcome in some way. When you feel like there was a connection between what you want and what happened. That's when the magic happens, not before. The magic happens in the realization. Magic manifestation is synchronicity. It doesn't happen by the bending of reality. It doesn't work that way. The manifestation of magic is the realization that it was always going to be that way. So the beginner will go back to the drawing board. And then you'll go back to the drawing board and you're going to say, I didn't get what I wanted. I'm going to retool the spell. I'm going to use a different spirit. I'm going to do a different sigil. What you don't realize is happening is your egoistic desires are getting refined through that process too. You're going to start thinking about what you want a little bit differently, and you're going to be putting into action maybe the things that are more likely to cause it. Not that it actually causes it, but you get what I'm saying. I have to speak it in English anyway. You're going to be sort of shaping your own desires to conform better with what is possible. Eventually, there's a better chance that your ritual or spell will lead to a synchronistic encounter. The fool thinks it's because they got the formula of the ritual right. And they'll write it down. This worked, bang, that means it's a perfected ritual, and they'll do it again, and it won't work anymore. It'll work once and never again. How many people, raise your hands in the comments, how many of you have gotten a ritual to work and then it never worked again? Why is that? Well, because no two rituals are meant to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can't repeat the ritual and have it do the same thing. I'm sorry. Some people get that experience, yes. I'm not saying zero. I'm saying by and large, they don't repeat that way. There's got to be something different every time. Because they're not mechanical systems. You don't pull a lever and get magical outcome. It doesn't work that way. This is not a causal system. It is an acausal relationship. The better way to think of magic is like the saying that you've probably heard that a skeptic will use. Correlation does not equal causation. Skeptics are 100% right. Yes, Necronicki, right. I always freestyle rituals. Yes, and there's a good reason for that. I'll get into that in a minute if somebody reminds me if I forget. There's a very good reason to freestyle your rituals. A very good reason. I'll explain that in a minute. I forgot what I was going to say. What was I going to say before I got hit up with the Nikki comment? Oh, shit. Shit. What was I saying?
No two are the same.
Yeah. I don't remember where I was going.
I forget where you were going with that.
I forgot where I was going. I got that brain tonight. Must be because all the chemicals I'm on to fight the Lyme disease. Well, so you'll get the impression that what you did led to an outcome. And while that is fair, that's not what's actually happened. Oh, correlation versus causation, okay? So you can have your ritual correlate with an outcome. That doesn't mean that the one caused the other. That's not what's happening. See this more as a form of premonition. This is why I like the word sorcery instead of the word magic. Sorcery, if you look up the original word of sorcery, was sortiarius, and someone here uses that as their title, which is really fucking cool. Sortiarius was someone who would cast lots and basically predict the future. And if they were really good, they could influence the future by casting lots. That's when you're really good. So someone who practices sorcery is looking to connect with the future, knowing that the future is not real. Okay, it's just now in a different form. Connect to the future in such a way that they absolve their ego completely. They transcend ego. They realize what the future is going to be, and then they celebrate that in the form of a spell or a ritual. This is why you'll notice I don't do spells and rituals just because somebody asked me to. I've got to feel like it's the right thing to do. Okay, I've got to feel like there's a purpose to it. I got to feel like it's either going to lead to a manifestation that's synchronistic, or it's going to teach the person something in the attempt, right? That's it. It's the only time I'll do it. Alex the Kid says, so if invoking angels for me doesn't work, but invoking demons works easily for me, should I work? Okay. Angels and demons are just different masks for the same energies by and large. You can make a distinction between egoistic entities and not. Egoistic entities are archons, usually in the Gnostic way of describing it, and archons are sort of delusional entities. They're the ones that say, I control this. So if you're an astrologer who looks at the stars like they control reality, like you look at the planets and say, they're over there and that's going to cause me to have this kind of a day, that's an archon. You've just submitted, your ego has submitted to an archon, and the archon now rules you. If, on the other hand, you look at the planets as celestial signs, they are corollary, not causal. They tend to, because they are there set in the same motion as the rest of the universe, they tend to correlate with different things, not cause them. Now you're in a much more accurate and not submissive state. That would make them an aeon, not an archon. So at that point, the aeons become, planets become aeons, not archons. Okay. When we compare angels and demons, we are taught in the Western culture that angels are the good guys and demons are the bad guys. The irony is, angels, by and large, if you look at their mythology and you look at what they represent, they're stand-ins for the planets. They're stand-ins for the same things that the ancients saw as gods. They're stand-ins for the aeons. They're stand-ins for the archetypes. Angels are just a new way to describe Zeus and Jupiter and Marduk and, Lilith and all these things. They're just a different way to describe them. Okay. Christian demons, the word demon comes from the Greek word daemon, which was sort of an inspiring force, literally what kind of the aeons are. An inspiring force that would inspire humans to learn, do, and not the same as a muse. A muse is like an artistic inspiring thing. A daemon is something that inspires human greatness or inspires human tragedy or inspires, they have an influence on reality, but it's not like they cause things, right? When you are in touch with a daemon, which is what all spirits technically kind of are, is a form of daemon, they're all figments of a simulacrum. None of them are literally real. They're all ideas. You are a figment of a simulacrum. The person you think you are is just an idea. When you get to realize that, you have a non-dual awakening. You go, the person I am is just a mask. It's a character I play. It's not a real person. Oh, shit. Then you realize that applies to everyone. And not just everyone, but everything. And not just everything in the material, but everything in the spiritual realm as well. Zeus is a mask for something else. And that something else is not personal. It's not even individualized like a person would be. It is a fragment. It is a distortion of the divine. That's what Zeus is representing. So an angel versus a demon, the difference is yours. You decide what that means. They don't exist really as what you think they are. There is no entity called an angel. There is no entity called a demon. There are angels and demons, which are different ways of looking at the same thing. When the Christians were encountering these things in their mythology, they would see angels as the good guys, the messengers of Yahweh, the messengers and cohorts of Jesus and all this kind of shit. And so they're the good guys. And if you dare confront them with the fact that, they have cardinal angels, which would have been, that they have things that are literally connected to astrology directly. They are directly connected to astrology. They will say, burn that motherfucker at the stake, even though it's 100% right. What they also will see is they will see the gods and folklore creatures and folklore entities of the people that were in competition with Christianity as bad guys. And they will turn them into demons. It is no coincidence that so many of the goetic demons look just like mythological characters that you would find in mythology that would have been vaguely familiar to a middle-aged, and when I say middle-aged, I don't mean like 45-year-old, I mean Middle Ages European person. Someone living in the Middle Ages during Europe wouldn't have a very good idea about much of Egypt except through what's in the Bible and through some apocryphal works and shit like that. So the spirits of those of that culture would be called things like Ammon. It would be called things, say spirits from other cultures would have to. Balaam. Balaam's in the Bible, motherfucker. Look him up. Balaam is a demon, but he's also mentioned in the Bible as a false prophet. So they demonize these things, right? They say they're bad guys, but these things are also just masks for distortions of divinity that teach us things. They're not bad guys. There's no such thing as a good or evil spirit. There is only how we relate to them. When we relate to them a certain way, it can have a bad. When we relate to something in a bad way, it's a bad thing. When we relate to them in a good way, it's a positive. But even that is misconceptual, because you don't have, as an ego, you don't have perfect awareness. You don't know what's going to happen. You could do everything right and still have a bad day. Right? You could rescue a little child from a burning building, and then that person grows up and becomes the next Hitler. What did you do, a net positive or a net negative in that case? Were the gods when God said save that little child, you're like, praise God, he told me to save the baby, and then the baby turns to be a mass murderer. Oh shit. Which I guess God wanted a mass murder. And so the Christians say, yes, God works in mysterious ways, my friend. This is such insanity. And you can go as complicated or as simple as you want with this. I like simple. Like I see Shaman down there. He's talking about 72 angels, 72 demons, 72 names of God, 72 times 30 times 3 is 216, 6 times 6 is 36 times 6, blah, 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 666. You also have 108 in there too, by the way, 72 and 72. Not 72 and 72, but you even have 108 worked into there with the I don't remember the exact thing, but 108's in there with so many things. There's so many numbers, right, that are all meaningful, because numbers are sort of like Pythagoras. If we go back to Pythagoras thought numbers, and I don't mean notation. Don't get numbers and notation mixed. Although notation represents numbers, mathematics and notation are not the same thing. Pythagoras understood this, and the Pythagoreans understood this. They had this weird cult going on where they worshipped numbers, right? But they didn't worship notation. They didn't worship the number 3 or something. They worshipped the essence, the aeonic essence behind the numbers and what they were, what the divisions. So you have 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, and 8. And so on. You have the Fibonacci sequence. This is also part of Pythagorean stuff. You get all this interesting stuff going on, which I only know like the very scratched surface of. And it's enough to blow your mind when you see how it all interrelates. So we don't need all of that. That's really cool. It's really important from the perspective of a being in the simulacrum, which is the mirage of Maya. From that reference, it's very useful to recognize all of these connections. It can be very useful, and that's what theurgy does. But it doesn't have to be complicated at all. Look at our ancestors. Did our ancestors have a complicated numerical way to approach the divine? No. They had the wolf spirit, and they had the bear spirit, and they had the eagle spirit, and so on. And those things were all they needed. They were very simple. They didn't literally think, at least I don't think they did, literally think that there was like an eagle. The ego represented something ineffable, unspeakable, the same thing an aeon does. And these things are not things, they're inspirations, and they recognized them and worked with them in a very simple foundational way. I like doing it that way. I don't need all of that other stuff. That's why I kind of turn my nose up when people say, like, have you worked with all the spirits? Have you got the numerology? I think that's a good way to get stuck in the dream too much. And I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying, for me, that's a good way to drive myself crazy and take the dream too seriously. I want to step away from that a little bit and engage with the essence of the dream more than the way it manifests. Yes, the dream manifests along these lines. You can see it. It definitely manifests in repeatable self-symmetrical ways with numbers and all this kind of cool shit. But that doesn't mean that that's what it is. All right. I said that I would get back to Nikki's comment, and she says she likes to, I don't know, what'd she say, freewheel? Or what'd she say, honey? Do you remember?
Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue.
I want to get you to talk because you've been very quiet. Because I've been on a rant. Well, while you're thinking that, let me just finish. I just realized I didn't quite...
the pants kind of thing.
Alex the Kid, I didn't finish your question answer. Work with either one. don't worry about working with one or the other. Work with spirits that resonate with you. Challenge yourself occasionally with spirits that don't. And then enjoy the process like you're role-playing with yourself. Don't take it too seriously, but then still recognize the miracles when they happen. People who take this too seriously get theistic and superstitious. People who don't take this too seriously and just understand what's going on, just enjoy the show. They don't worry about if it's real or not. They don't worry about if angels or demons are real or not. The magic will work anyway, because the magic is not about causing effects. It's about realizing your divinity. That's what it's about. It's about realizing your divinity and aligning with it. Let me put it to you like this, okay? The type of magic that I practice is a mix of sorcery and theurgy. The mixture of sorcery and theurgy that I do could be described as Western yoga. It is yoga. It just doesn't use the methods that people in India use. The word yoga means to yoke. What are we yoking? We are yoking the ego to the divine. Instead of having the ego say, I can do what I want, fuck y'all, and it's always going to be in conflict then with the divine, and then just that's where suffering comes from, at least one of the ways. When you yoke ego to the divine and make the ego realize that it is the divine in a personified form, and it's got a limited piece of the divine, you know, like it can only see a little bit of the divine at once, then the ego can say, oh, okay, so I'm just going to kind of go with the flow then. Yeah, you're going to go with the flow, and that flow is going to be amazing, trust me. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about what spirit you're working with. Don't worry about, oh, I'm only working with demons. I can't connect to angels. I must be bad, or something like that. Or the angels must be bad. Or if it works in your mythology that they're in conflict, fine, do it that way. But that's not the reality. That's just your mythology. If your mythology works for you, if it feels good, if it resonates, if you like it, do it. Some of my detractors say I'm a LARPer, and I smile and say, you're damn right I'm a LARPer, and it works really well for what I do. You're all LARPing. The difference is some people take it so seriously that they're brain damaged, they're demented, they're psychotic. They think that all of these things are literal. Like people who read the Bible and take it as literal truth. People who read Genesis and think it's literal and say the universe is only 6,000 years old. Those people are demented. The same thing with people who think that by putting some blood on a candle, they can cause me to die. Those people are insane. They don't understand what's actually happening. Does that mean that they can't have an experience where they put blood on a candle and I drop dead? Of course they can have that experience, but they're not causing it. They're not causing me to die. Trust me. Just trust me. So back to Nikki's thing. So Nikki talked about freestyling magic. That's right. Freestyling.
Was freestyling.
When you're freestyling magic, what are you really doing? Well, that was pretty cool. Who cursed you? From my personal perspective, almost every ritual I do is irrepeatable. It's a one-off. I'll never do it the same way again. And this is the secret to that. What I do is I enter into a trance type state, right? I start, first I sort of empty myself. My ego is subsided. I am entering into a non-dual state. From that non-dual state, I eventually come back to a more embodied state. And as I do so, I start to visualize and envision an outcome that I am seeking. And I realize that in the multiverse, anything that is possible has happened somewhere already. Somewhere in the multiverse is the outcome that I want to see. Maybe I want to see, you know, my wife have a different hair color, or maybe I want $1 million fucking dollars. Somewhere out there in the multiverse is that outcome. Now, if that outcome is really close to the timeline that I feel like I'm on, it'll be very rational. That means it'll be something that's not so bizarre that it's like, if it happens, it would be like too real of a miracle, right? So if it requires that I just instantly teleport to, you know, the garage and change my wife's hair color or something, not going to happen. Like if I'm sitting here and suddenly my wife's hair color turns, you know, bright blue, that's too much of a step. However, if I want her to change her hair color to blue, what I'll do is I'll go into the multiverse, if you will. I'll imagine her having blue hair in a future tense, realize that I can see that. Then I'll sort of trace back that reality to this moment. And I will find something between then and now that is out of place, that if I shift it, will sort of make that reality possible. One of the ways to do that is a spell or a ritual. So a very simple version of that will be, well, If I want my wife's hair to be blue, then I don't know. This crystal has to be on top of here. Boop. Done. That's the spell. Done. And I let it be that. And then I just, without expectation, I just wait and I watch. And maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. If it does, then I know that I jumped timelines or I predicted my timeline. Either way, I'm happy because my ego got what it wanted. Does that mean I caused it to happen? No, it means that I went to see it. I manifested it. My ego got out of its own way, and now that arrived in my consciousness. Now, the ritual can be as simple as just moving that crystal, or it could be a big, elaborate, dramatic play where I light a cauldron and cool shit happens. And when that happens, it's even more interesting because I can get feedback sort of in the moment. If I'm calling upon a spirit and suddenly the fireball erupts out of that cauldron, I will feel, even if that's not a cause and effect thing, I will feel like I'm right in there. That alone will send you into other dimensions of possibility. So this is where I rub some people the right way. All of you guys I seem to rub the right way. But I also rub the superstitious and the theists the wrong way. They want their fantasy to be real. And I'm telling you that the reality is so much stranger than that fantasy, you can't even imagine it. And it's not something I believe. This is something that is rooted in something that I cannot deny. Because non-dualism, non-duality, begins by negating everything that is unreal and being remained and left with the only thing that you can't get rid of. That's consciousness. And then when you do that, and then you have to wrestle with what the fuck is this? When you come back from that non-dual state of realizing that everything is consciousness, then you got to explain where this comes from. What is this shit? Is this just a dream? And if so, how does it form? Where does it come from? How does it manifest? As you walk back through it, you'll start to develop a model. The fucked up thing is, I didn't learn any of this. I didn't go look this stuff up. I know I talk about Gnosticism and Hinduism and all these things. That came after the fact. I found out after that those things existed. I had already put these ideas together. They weren't perfectly refined, no. That is partially what these other things helped me with. But I already had the ideas, the basic framework I already knew. Then I go looking at things and I go, wow, emanationism, that's almost exactly what I see. Just I see it as manifestationism. It's a similar concept. It just puts the cart in behind the horse instead of in front of it. Emanation puts the cart before the horse. It's a little different. Manifestationism realizes the reality is invisible. It's not literal emanations at all. The emanations are always there, okay? They're perceptual layers. That's what they are. This kind of stuff, it's not a belief. The language is a belief. The way of explaining it is a belief. The model is a kind of belief, but the essence behind it is not a belief at all. And even though my way of describing it will evolve, what I see it as doesn't change. It just becomes easier to describe. And as it becomes easier to describe, that means that I'm aligning with that reality a little bit better. Eventually, what ends up being left is none of it matters. That's the fun part. Goodbye, Lord Malphas. Thank you for checking us out. Thanks for subbing. What eventually is left is nothing. There's absolutely nothing left. It's sort of like Zen. In Zen, you are told to go and sit in front of this wall and go and meditate until you dissolve yourself. It's a wild goose chase that eventually you give up on, in a way. It doesn't mean you stop doing the meditations. It just means eventually you give up on the purpose of it. And in so doing, enlightenment just happens. By doing all these practices, eventually you stop doing them. Eventually you just go, fuck it. Reality is what it is. At that point, especially from a non-dual perspective, that fuck it moment is when you finally relinquish ego. Ego finally gives up its attempt to change things. And ego then realizes it is everything that is and is done and will be, and it just lets go and wu-wei just happens. You just, yes, Cassie, and in that nothing, though, is everything. Well said, Cassie. Well said. That's exactly right. So I haven't reached that point. I'm still playing with the toys, guys. I'm not done. That's why I don't sit there and go, I am some enlightened grand master of the universe, and when I snap my fingers, EA Quedding's asshole puckers. No, I am not that person, guys, and I probably never will, because that's not where my head's at. What I want to do, what I get my jollies off of, is when I talk to people and I'm telling them these things and I see the light behind their eyes go on and they go, holy shit. To me, that is being a psi vampire, but an evolved one that's a symbiotic one now, not a predatory one. To me, that is like, I'm just like, give me the straw, you know. I'm just like, yes, that's a good one, honey.
Yeah.
Is that for the Lilith one?
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be glorious.
Glow, but
and that's why Cassie says, is this why I feel like rituals don't matter? They do and they don't. They do and they don't. See, the rituals don't cause anything, but they reveal things. Sorcery reveals the divine. It reveals the will of the divine to you. When you have an accurate sorceress moment, you didn't cause the outcome. You revealed that you were always part of it. Okay? And there's different ways to do it. This is why all forms of magic can work for somebody. This is why somebody can literally do a spell just by tapping a stone on the ground and saying blah, 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 and it works. It's an art form for that reason. Shaman of Lilith says, the toys are fun. They are fun. These are fun. This is cool. Love the aesthetic. Love this shit. Love the way it makes normies tremble with, oh my God, it's spooky demons. That's all fun. That's the joy of it. Do it for fun. Don't do it because you're a religious person who now believes in Satan as the father and, oh, Satan, guide me to blah, blah, blah. Satan is my God. Don't be that person. I mean, you can be that person. It's just, I mean, that's not what it is. I know that's going to piss off a theistic. I'm not saying Satan is a non-thing. I'm saying that, well, I am saying that, but not in the sense that you can't work with it. What I'm saying is don't trade one demiurge for another, because there is a demiurge version of Lucifer, a demiurge version of Satan, a demiurge version of every spirit exists. Every spirit can be an egoistic fuckface that destroys you if you are an egoistic fuckface. And when I say egoistic, I don't mean full of yourself, like how good you are, although that is one way egoism manifests. People will say, Thorne, you talk a lot about ego, but you're one of the most arrogant people. Good, fuck you. I don't mind being arrogant. That's why I'm not as egoistic as you. I don't have a problem being like that. I don't mind if you are too. If you go, look at how beautiful my artwork is, I go, yeah, that's pretty fucking good, actually. I like that. That's good. I'm not in competition with you, right? So in a way, my being okay with being a little arrogant means I'm less egoistic than you, because I don't care. It doesn't bother me that I'm a little bit, because I wouldn't see a problem with it in you. So ego is not about how cool you feel about yourself. Ego is about having a self in the first place. And when I say having a self, I'm not saying that being selfless is ideal. I'm not saying ego is bad. Ego is not bad. Ego is just the lens you see everything through. You're always going to have, if you're a human being, there's going to be ego. If you think you can be a human being without ego, then I'm in the wrong business, because I could rip a lot of money off you, and people do. Because they'll send you to these retreats and they'll do these meditation courses, and look up transcendental meditation, how much they charge you for a seed mantra that they draw out of a hat. Thousands of dollars to be told a word in Sanskrit that you should repeat to yourself till you're blue in the face. Just use Om, motherfucker, or a variation of it. I actually like to put an H in the Om, so instead of just Om or Aum, I sometimes like to go Hum. Start with an H, like really open up that throat. Is it wrong? Does it matter? No, your mantra could be Fart Factory. I don't give a fuck what it is. Any recitation is fine.
Whatever works for you.
Yeah, they can all work. Are some better than others objectively? I suppose it depends on what you're going for. The reason Om works is because it engages the entire energy system. That's why it works. It's a good word. But you can do it with anything. Like I said, Fart Factory works just fine. Yeah, TM, crazy cult too. I think you're talking about transcendental meditation people. Yes, they're absolutely crazy cults. I've looked it up just to see, because I know what transcendental meditation is. I don't need to be taught it. I know what it is. I know how it works. don't ask me how I know, but as soon as I read what it is, I'm like, oh, that's something I've been doing for years just because I figured it out. Okay, so they do this thing where they get you to focus on a seed mantra, which can be anything. It can be a number, a word, a letter, a picture, anything you want. You focus on that, and then you let it go. And in that space between the seed mantra, and the seed mantra consists of emptiness and a sound, right? And that sound can be a vocalized sound, but ultimately you want to eventually internalize it, so you don't even have to speak it. You want to, and it's a total body thing, not just a sound that you make. In between each there's a little bit of emptiness for a moment. And in between, in that emptiness, that's actually the transcendental part, because there's stillness there. You're recognizing the Om as the wave and the stillness is the trough, and then eventually you realize that the two are one happening, and disobjectification happens and non-dual realization occurs. That's all it does. And you can use anything from that. You can use music for that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do. Inesh just says, I'd rather sit at the beach and meditate on a resort by myself. The waves, my friend, the waves, the crashing waves are a traditionally beautiful mantra. Listen to the waves, feel them flow. Whoosh, silence. Whoosh, that is a mantra. Mm-hmm. And then if you want to make it really advanced, eventually you, instead of having a second or two between mantra recitations, you make it a minute, 2 minutes, an hour, and there's nothing but stillness between. That's when you know you've arrived. When you can have stillness for several minutes at a time, that's an advanced state. This is why I say in Become the Maelstrom, you should practice this until you can achieve stillness for a minute or more. When you reach it for a minute or more, you can pretty much hold it forever, pretty close to it. The goal is not to not think. The goal is to realize that emptiness can be as long as it needs to be. That emptiness is your natural state. It is. And when I say emptiness, I don't mean literal nothingness. I mean no-thingness. 2 words, no thingness. Yeah, rain sounds work good too, Casey. I agree. Absolutely. I like the beach, though. I'm not even a beach person. Like, I didn't like the beach growing up. I like forests. But after a while, going to ComSet for a while, I started really liking, not the beach, but I liked the shore, right? And I totally agree with you. Sitting on a beach and having the waves crashing repetitively. And what I like to do is, if it's daytime, I don't like to be sitting out in the sun like I'm sunbathing, but I like to be able to look up at the sun or the sky, but especially the sun if I can, and close my eyes and just see the brightness radiating through my eyelids while I hear the crashing. That's wonderful.
The breeze at the shore helps too.
Yes. Yeah. And then being at night is also wonderful. Like, they're both good. Like, there's really no better or worse. Twilight Shaman's quoting me. He says, "You are not your thoughts. You are the space between." Some arrogant guy, I can't remember, said that. Yes. Fucking, and the monkey for Hanuman and the crown. Yeah. You know, one of these days I should reread all that. I only vaguely familiar with the story of Hanuman, but Hanuman's a really cool story. And its relationship with, I forget, was it Krishna? I always forget if it's Krishna. I think it's Krishna. Fucking awesome story. Hanuman's fucking awesome. The Monkey King. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah. All right. So I'm going to get a quick drink, and I'm going to leave this in the hands of my ever so qualified wife to maybe read some comments and talk to the audience for about a minute.
Are you sure you want to do that?
Yes, I do, because I think you need some more FaceTime, because you're cute and you're having fun and you're glorious and gorgeous, and I can't wait to see you all gothed out at the freaking thing in September.
Right, you fluff awesome. My ego. I'm
not fluffing your ego. I'm just reminding you that it's okay to have one.
What's that?
I'm not fluffing your ego. I'm just telling you it's okay to love yourself.
You're fluffing.
I'm fluffing.
You're fluffing me. That's cool. Keep doing it.
Oh, okay. Well, how come when I did it before you said stop? You're like, oh, don't say that. I'm not beautiful.
It depends on the mood.
I mean, I don't want to put you in the spot like I did at that Pizza Hut that one time. That was pretty funny, but I'd tell that story, but I have a feeling that I would get an arm breaking through the wall, grabbing me by the neck, dragging me into the garage, and just resonating me to the table.
Yeah.
So I'll wait till you're not on the stream so you don't know I'm saying it.
Super glue your mouth shut.
What, like I'm a bonsai kitten?
You'll never talk again.
Necro Nikki says she loves the snake mirror you made. That'll probably, when's that going to go up? A couple weeks?
That I'm still working. I have grapevines I'm going to be attaching to it, hopefully, if it works out. I'm going to be standing them and attaching them, but...
Whenever you say grapevines, my brain immediately remembers laurel leaves, and I want to wear like black laurel leaves or fall colored laurel leaves. I really want that. Like, especially if I do like an event, like I want to look like a Greek god of the underworld. Like that'd be so cool. All right, I'm gonna get a drink.
This was the eye for that mirror too. So far.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
People are talking at you, so why don't you respond to their comments? Nikki and Jay, I'm gonna say it wrong. Baldale, I think that's how you say it. They asked you a question, so I'm gonna get a quick drink. It might be a minute.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I got a question here. How's your working?
I won't hear a word you're saying, so say it loud.
I'll say it as loud as I can. I don't want to blow anyone's eardrums out. Okay. So the question is, how's your working going with Leviathan? Well, Leviathan, I actually do more work with him in the shower now. Like end of the day kind of thing. After the work day's over, I go in there and I draw like his sigil in the drops on the wall of the shower, and I converse with him in there. I don't really do as many rituals right now. It's kind of just I just don't feel like doing the whole setup, so I kind of just do little communing with entities here and there. So, no, but it's going pretty well. Other than what I've already stated other times, it's mostly, for me, it's personal growth and getting my emotions in check and all this other crap, you know. Let's see. Camilla, what gnosis have you gotten from the Ouroboros? Well, a lot of the gnosis I get is very personal. I don't share a lot of it. Can we see it? Come on. The mirror I'm working on? Yes. This is the one I'm working on right now. It's, for those that weren't here last week, this is shed from my ball python that I glued to the frame, and it's got 2 coats of resin on it. It's the eye, the red eye that I was working on is going to go on this. And it is essentially a tribute to Lilith. Eye of Tiamat. No, that's for the Lilith mirror. Yeah, you need to get back here. I'm stuttering. I hate stuttering. Oh, social anxiety. Why you do this to me? Is you back yet? I can't see you on screen. Scrolling.
Very quiet.
Resin porn. Yes, I plan on having some more resin porn in probably next week. I will have more to pour by then. Scrolling. I'm glad you're back.
Did you all see me put the candle out? I love when I do that trick.
I didn't, because I can't see you on screen.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
I just like showing that trick off. I remember I showed it to some people. They're like, "Oh my god, how do you do that?"
From the Cauldron Witch, yes, I am taking commissions. You know where to reach me. We've been talking on Etsy. If anybody wants, and if anybody is interested, yes, message me on our Etsy store. Right now I do not do magic with my snake, but I do use his skin occasionally. So I guess that would be yes. Yeah. Snake skin is good for rejuvenation, rebirth.
Refreshing.
Yeah.
Especially like glamour, you know.
I wouldn't expect you to have social anxiety. You have no idea.
Oh my God.
You have no
I mean,
idea.
she's gotten a lot better. Like, you don't know. Like, you just don't know. But the funny thing is she likes being in the spotlight too. It's like a real irony because she, as much as she'll hate it, she likes to be in the spotlight.
Just don't give me a talking role.
So, yeah.
I like working on things in the background. I don't like talking.
Well, imagine how I'm going to feel. Like, I'm used to public speaking on the internet, but if I'm going to do a keynote, I don't even know how to do a keynote. Like, what does that even mean? So I'm going to have to look up, like, what a keynote looks like so I can emulate one. So, I don't know. We'll see. I guess I'm pretty good at actual public speaking, too. It's just, I'm kind of used to this now. Like, if it's not this, like, is it really public speaking? I don't know.
Yes, Psychic Huma Yara. Shadow work is very essential for anxiety. I use it a lot.
The problem is shadow work for a lot of people looks like anxiety itself.
Yeah.
That's one of the problems with it. Negative self-talk, going over a problem over and over and over in your mind, that's not shadow work. Shadow work is trying to realize, well, in some ways shadow work is the psychology you'd see like in a cliche psychology story, right? Why am I shy about things? What bad experience did I have that makes me shy? That's one way. But the other reason you could be shy is because you're really arrogant. You're really full of yourself, and when you don't live up to your expectations, you can't stand it.
Yeah.
There's so many different levels to what could make you insecure that it's crazy.
So question, after June 30th, I'm putting my Etsy on vacay mode. Is there any other way to reach you? You could join our Discord. I am on there. You could message me privately on there. I am on social media, Facebook and Instagram, but I very rarely check the DMs. I figure if anyone has anything to say to me, they could say it on my public profile area. I don't really check my private stuff much. So you could join our Discord and message me on there.
Yeah, Psychic Humiara got a good statement. She says, as long as you stay consistent with the self-cognitive behavioral therapy with positive affirmations, then you got it. Hugs. I mean, that's pretty good advice. I would say, you know, you need a healthy mix of positive. Negging isn't a good idea. Like, I've found that, yes, it's possible to be too positive, but being negative doesn't help. You know, like, if you're constantly, like, saying bad things and being negative, even if you're just joking, your psycho-spiritual complex can't tell the difference between a joke and reality. If you're saying, I'm a fat asshole, I'm a jerk, I'm stupid, your subconscious just eats that, and it takes it seriously, and so you do have to worry about it. But yeah, I'm fine with public speaking. I've done it before.
In college, I took a class on that. Went over
I do it quite a bit.
Went over like a lead balloon.
I mean, I do a lot of sales at work, you know. I'm used to talking to multiple people and putting up a front and acting a certain way and all this. I'm used to it.
That's different, though.
But carrying on like a, you know, I don't know, 20-minute keynote speech or something, which luckily it's going to be on the subject of shadow people probably, so it's going to be easy for me.
Yeah.
But the problem I have is keeping it to 20 minutes. Once I get going, forget it. Yeah, Discord's good, and you can also just message me on Facebook. I mean, I take my sweet-ass time on social media, too, because even people that I like, I get just sick of messages. I just, you know, I've just reached this, I don't know if it's boomer level disappointment in internet, but I don't know. I've reached boomer level disappointment in the internet. Like I just don't care. There can be people that I love, and I'll be like, I'm just gonna message them in an hour. No offense to the persons who I'm doing that to. It has nothing to do with you.
No, I do the same thing with my phone. If I get a text, it's almost like a mental health check I do with myself, regardless of who it is, except for you. You and our son, I answer right away. But everybody else, if I see a text, I say, nope, I'll text back in an hour.
And you know what sucks?
Because otherwise you feel like, oh, I got to always respond right away. No, you really don't.
What sucks is I am craving community, but I am not craving internet community. Internet community was good for a hot minute, and I found it useful. But you know what my dream is? I want to live in a small little... Well, maybe I have too much of an ideal going here that can't happen, so it'll disappoint me in the end. But what I dream of is a small little community, like an intimate little, like an artist colony or a writer's colony or something. Couple dozen houses, couple dozen huts, right, in a little cul-de-sac, and we each have our own private space, but then we have like a public community center or something, and once a week we all get together for community time. And it would be, you know, there's plenty of people in the internet community that I would think of would be cool to have in that, right? And just every once in a while we get together, sit around bonfires. Everybody lives their own life, but it's also because the modern world has made it harder to have actual friends than ever before. As soon as I meet somebody I think I could be friends with, especially when you're in your 40s or something, it just gets harder and harder to make time and to get together. And when the internet is there, you end up doing that instead. And you don't actually feel like you have a community or a culture or a friend circle. So I think part of what I'm doing with this meetup is I'm trying to create the precedent for not like a little commune, you know, artist colony, but getting away from internet only life. I don't want to make it so real that I got like this weird group of people that, you know, I don't want it to make it too real with some people. Some people are nuts, and I don't want everybody in my life. You know, I like to have barriers, not just barriers, but like, you know, distance between me and my community a little bit. But I want more than this, right? I have my wife now. I have one friend that I don't really talk to very often in real life. You know, we'll go like 5-6 months without talking, then we'll hang out for like a little bit, and then it'll go away again. And we're not enemies or anything. It's just we don't have the time, and we don't have as much in common as we used to. I got other friends that I don't hate, that I haven't seen in years. I don't even consider them friends anymore. And it's not because I don't make myself available. I got one guy that I met recently that sort of wanted me to be his mentor. And he seems like a really cool guy, but, you know, he works a lot. He's a doctor, so he works a lot. And, you know, we hung out once, and we've been talking here and there ever since. It's just we don't have time to meet up all the time. And I'm finding myself just disappointed because online life sucks. People suck. People completely suck online. Like, I'm so disappointed with the online world and what it's turned into. Once upon a time, the online world was a place that I could go as a refuge, and the online world has now become a place that I go to the real world to escape. Like, I can't stand the online world anymore. There's not much there that I like. Even when I'll watch the Discord and go, I like every one of these people, and I have no interest in talking to them. Why is that? I'm talking about people that I think are really fucking cool, that I love reading their comments and shit, but I'm still silent, like on my own Discord. So I've got this Discord. I'm not as active as I used to be. It's just every once in a while I'll make time.
You know,
Instead, I just watch everybody else talking, which is kind of something I do, actually. If you know me, you know that I go to a club and I just watch people. So it's kind of like, it's not that weird, I guess. I guess it's pretty much what I already do.
I'm going to say, I think it is the online shit that really kind of brought out my social anxiety to be worse than it was beforehand. Not gonna lie.
Well, I mean, you're talking to a guy who went from having parties with like 100 people at them pretty much at the drop of a hat to I don't know. I can't get people to hang out if I fucking offer to feed them, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not, I guess it's because I'm an asshole. I don't think I'm any different.
No,
I think they changed,
different than
actually.
you were.
I don't think, maybe I am different. Maybe I'm an asshole. I don't know. I don't care. But I've always been like that. Even when I had the 100 people parties, I'd invite them all over for like a birthday party. And I would just kind of disappear and watch them from the side. You know? They'd all come to hang out with me. And to hang out with each other. And then just at some point I would just kind of sit in the corner and watch them all. I didn't try to be the center of the party. I just like to have them around. Yeah, From the Cauldron Witch is right. She agrees with Camilla. She says, I agree, Camilla. Too much drama and hate online. And you're not just right. You're right in a way that is like, when the internet was just for nerds and weirdos who knew how to use a computer the right way, it was sort of like a barrier to entry that made sure only people of a certain caliber of mind were able to use it, by and large. But once it became something that any jackass with a cell phone could access intimately, it turned to shit, like, overnight. Like, it just, you know, it started to really go downhill around, like, 2008. And it just went all the way in the toilet in the last 5 years or so. And now it's like, I can't go on any social media and scroll more than half a scroll before I just want to throw something.
Yeah.
And it's just, and it's not that I can't take other people's opinions. It's just, I just go, I don't like these people. I don't even mean, like, I mean, there's people that I have friends with on Facebook. On Facebook, if I accept your friend request, doesn't mean we're actually friends, by the way. I'll just watch people's stuff. And I know this is a very shitty thing to say, but I'm not a good person, by the way. I don't consider myself some kind of a hero who's above hating people. I scroll through social media and I go, you're an asshole. I can't stand what you just said. That is so dumb. I can't, that is a dumb joke, blah, 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 blah. I'm just kind of disappointed.
You know what it is? It's the amount, it's the drama, the same person with the same issues. It's like, dude, just let it go and get over it and they'll leave you alone.
Yeah.
The more you bring them up, the worse it's going to get. Just drop the subject.
Yeah. Yeah. And Psychic Humor makes another good comment. DH, I think you and your wife just want to talk to people at your own level. I like to say my own tribe, though, because I don't see it necessarily at a level, even though I often talk about my IQ being high and how that changes how I see people, because it does. I mean, when you have an IQ over like 130 and in your 140s or whatever, when you encounter people with an average IQ, it is like talking to someone with a different brain. It really is. It's just like when someone with an average IQ talks to somebody who's a little bit, you know, on the not so smart side. I'm not saying that it's really bad or anything, but it is kind of like, I don't know, like it's, you can tell there's a difference, and it's hard to relate is what I'm saying. It's not that you're better than them, is you'd have less in common. You don't see the world the same way, and so it's like always talking to a child or something. And I know I'm sort of intentionally making it sound worse than I mean it, but just trying to exaggerate the difference. It's like, I don't look down on you, but we don't relate very well. But I don't like saying it like on my level, because I don't like to see it like there's levels. I like to see it as tribe. You know, I like to see it as there's just people that we get each other, right? And I like that. But I don't know. Over the years, I've also just become like, you know what? I could just take it or leave it at the same time. Yeah. Gingini, well said. Well said. The LHP here on YouTube within the last year got really sad. It really did. Mm-hmm. And it's not just because of EA, okay? The EA thing sucks, but that's just symptomatic of the problem. You know? And that problem has been there for a long time. And I gotta tell you, it's not just the left-hand path. The right-hand path is even more toxic, believe it or not. The toxic part of the left-hand path is from the bleed over of right-hand path people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And what I mean by that is a lot of it's the woke morons and the people with right-hand path mentalities that say they're left-hand path. What's the difference? Right-hand path is they're more likely to be moralistic about something. Not that the left-hand path has no sense of right or wrong or ethics or anything. But the left-hand path doesn't have the same kind of taboos. And I'm not saying one is superior to the other, but a lot of the egoistic posturing and bullshit and clout chasing, a lot of that's right-hand path stuff that you see a lot of. And left-hand path people tend to be more like, leave me alone, like, introverted, I guess, I've noticed. And a lot of the people who are the most dramatic in the community are the ones that sort of follow a right-hand tradition. They find things to be offended about, and then they go after each other over them. That's just one way I see it. But, I see a lot of woke fools entering the left-hand path community, and they, above all, cause the most drama. They're constantly judging one another, and they're judging other creators, and they're clout chasing, and they're trying to call other people bad and cult leaders and shit. And it's like, why do you care? Let them be what they are. You're not going to save the fucking world, you crusading idiot, you do-gooder. Like, that's something that Anton LaVey and other people, even fucking Alan Watts talked about do-gooders. Alan Watts, which a lot of people on the right-hand path say he's one of our guys. No, motherfucker, he's neither. He would mock you too. He has a very famous quote. It's one of my favorite quotes. That he says, there's a big to-do about this big love thing going on right now. And you know what I think when I hear that? I think that there's a storm of hypocrisy brewing, so I want to get a gun and bar the door. People who are all about the do-goodery are generally the worst people to know. They're generally the people that cause the most crisis, calamity, and problem. And the people in the 80s who were the puritanical, pearl-clutching, everything Satan people, okay, they're still out there. Those satanic panic people are still out there. But there's another version of those pearl clutchers, which is on the other side, that gets mad if you don't use the right pronouns on everybody, and you don't have a Ukrainian flag, and all this other shit. And they're out there too, and they're awful. They're just awful people. They're no better than those hardcore conservatives. They just get offended about something else. Mm-hmm. Bothers me. And I'm not even saying that cool people aren't offendable. You can be offendable. That's not the point. Someone who has a boundary and says, I don't want to deal with that shit, doesn't mean they're fragile. What I'm talking about is just people who judge everyone. Hold on. Shadow work, live in progress, and I'm judging people. I know I'm doing that. I know I'm judging people with what I'm saying. But at the same time, yeah, I guess I'm no better. I'm really no better. I am judging people. Fuck it. I own it. I'm judging those people. But I guess the difference is I'm not trying to get a community to go against them. If I was going to give myself any kind of feather in my cap that I'm better, it's that I'm judging them and I'm saying, stay the fuck away from me. That's all I'm doing. Those people will try to come after me to destroy me, whereas I will leave them alone. That's the difference. So, fuck it. I'll accept that. If that's the only difference, then that's the difference. Necroniki says, it's embarrassing. A lot try to call people out, then do exactly the same thing they are calling people out over. Exactly. It's a lot of hypocrisy. It's a lot of posturing. Yeah. Higigigigig says, toxic positive love and light spirituality people act like it's wrong to get angry or you can't ever be sad. Nope. You got to let those emotions in and out. You got to let them in, you got to let them out. Mm-hmm. You got to let them in and out in a healthy way. So here's the thing. This is what makes an emotion unhealthy. Any emotion that gets stuck is an unhealthy emotion, even happiness. That's a clogged chakra. Chakra can be clogged by positive as well as negative. It doesn't have to be just clogged by happy things or negative things. It can be either one can clog it as a metaphor. So emotions are meant to run through. They're meant to be something that pass through, or you pass through them. However you want to frame it, emotions are transient. If you're trying to dwell on happiness, that's illness. If you're constantly unhappy, that's illness. Happiness and sadness needs to flow through you. So the reason why everybody gets really crazy and psychotic is because they try to cling to love and light only, and they don't let the negative through. They only see the positive. They are only Pollyanna, whatever. Instead of resisting the urge to neg, which is one thing, they will instead only allow positive. That's not healthy either.
It's like that saying, if you you know you're alive when you feel pain.
Oh man, I
pain,
can't
you're
eat
not
that pizza we
alive.
made. Ooh, oh, it's some indigestion, baby.
You all right?
Oh man, just like I don't want to be too gross, but a mouthful of that pizza popped up.
Oh.
I can't ever have that like that again. Oh, whew. That means I won't be able to go to bed for a while because I'll probably have it in the middle of my sleep snorted out.
Yeah. Yeah, we won't make that again.
Oof. I may have to kill myself. So, I mean, look at Facebook is a terrible place for it because I see it a lot. It seems like a lot of the drama is mostly on Facebook.
Yeah. That's why I avoid it.
And TikTok.
TikTok I never use.
Yeah, Facebook and TikTok are where the drama is. Twitter's where the drama is too, but it's a different kind of drama. When I go on Twitter, first of all, it's all political drama. That's number one. Everything you see there is people arguing about politics. So I love Twitter for that. But Twitter also has this different mentality where it's way more of a gloves off scenario where people just talk shit and you just let it roll off your back. Whereas on Facebook, you get more like fuck you and you cut people off. It's kind of weird. And I like Facebook because it lets me control the community a little bit and say, I don't want a rude asshole trolling me, so I'm going to cut them off and block them. I think that's well within your rights. You should use it. Don't let people, because Facebook's more personal. Facebook's more like your own place online, whereas Twitter is just like a public square to yell at each other. Facebook is like, I have my family photos on there, motherfucker. I don't need somebody who hates me looking at that shit and talking shit. So I'll block people on there. But TikTok is probably the absolute worst of the worst, you know, because it's got the short form issue that Twitter has, so it's all real short form shit. And it's very much a fad kind of environment. And it's, of course, Chinese propaganda tool and Chinese information gathering tool. So TikTok has like 10 strikes against it. That's why I don't use it. I know some people tried to talk me into using it. A couple of them with, you know, very noble intentions, saying they could use some other people on there besides themselves that were halfway decent. And I appreciated that, but I don't plan on using TikTok just because I know what it is. I'm barely okay with using social media the way it is, and I know what it is. TikTok's even worse. I'm not going to touch it. Nope. Instagram's cool. Cauldron Witch talks about Instagram. Instagram is cool because I don't have as many negative interactions with anybody. Instagram is way less negative. You go on Instagram and it's funny videos, cool pictures, thoughts, you know, male and female thoughts all over the fucking place. It's pretty much, people don't troll each other hard there. You don't get a lot of negativity. If you follow someone, it's because you like them. And it's that simple. People don't follow people they don't like just to hate on them. Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. YouTube's pretty good about it. Like, a lot of people don't. It used to be YouTube had a lot of trolls. And I don't know what happened. I don't know how YouTube cleaned it up, or if it's just people just don't bother with it the same way. I still see trolls on YouTube, but it's not like it used to be at all. Like, it's a fraction. It's a fraction of what it used to be.
Not nearly like it used to be.
Yeah. Yeah, Instagram's okay. Instagram's okay. Yes, Anesh, thoughts, you know, e-thoughts, the hooas, the male and female hooas with their booty shaking around, the booty shakers. I know I'm a little boomerish, but, you know, I'm a young Gen Xer. We can act a little boomerish sometimes. It's okay.
You're on the cusp. It's all right.
I'm on the cutting edge. Say it right, bitch. Yeah, I refuse to use TikTok too. You know, I mean, I've thought about it because it's a good platform for getting views, and you can really blow up on TikTok. But I've seen what passes on TikTok for spiritual videos, and it's only a matter of time before the woke, you know, libs of TikTok types find you. The woke witches find you. When the woke witches find you, you're going to get dogpiled, you're going to get attacked, and it'll be just because you used the wrong fucking pronoun for a spirit or something. I'm telling you. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen to people for nothing. For nothing, I've seen them get dogpiled by haters on TikTok. Just because they're all a bunch of freaking... It's a mob mentality on TikTok. I can't stand it. No way. You know what I use TikTok for? There's only one thing I watch on TikTok ever. That's the Vantalord. That motherfucker cracks me up with his fucking faking like he's fucking ironing shit, acting like he's the head of some council. I love Vantalord. That guy's funny as shit.
It's fucking awesome.
yeah, Edgebringer, you're not wrong. There's definitely trolls everywhere, but I'm saying you can definitely also see that there's more on some platforms than others. And some platforms are way more toxic than others. YouTube, for better or for worse, they're really shitty with the way that they will shadow ban you. But as a platform, it's probably the least toxic in terms of community. Just because, you know, I'm not saying there isn't toxic people. It's just, I've found that people who don't like you go away. Like you hide their comments a little bit, or you ignore them a little bit, they go away. They don't follow you. Even when they follow you, they just, I guess it's because they're not going to sit through a video just to make fun of you. You know, they get bored with it. Facebook, you get, I'm going to say in order of like the ones that are like the most toxic to least, but I'll say least toxic to most. I'm going to say Instagram, YouTube, then Facebook, then Twitter, then TikTok. Twitter sort of is a weird case because, like I said, it's a gloves off scenario, so you don't expect kindness. So I don't mind when people troll me on Twitter because it's just, I read it and I go, you're a nobody. You're just a name saying stupid shit. Next. I don't even block them on Twitter. I don't block people on Twitter, really. I think I have like 2 people blocked because they got like threateningly weird. So I'm like, other than that, I don't block. So Twitter, you can talk shit, you know. If you harass me, I might block you. But if you just say something I don't like, oh well. You know, like, it's not a big deal. I think I have Vaush blocked on Twitter. I blocked him just because I don't ever want to see him. I don't even want to see his shit. That guy's just gross.
Yeah.
But I think that him and one other person I think I have blocked on Twitter. You know, Twitter's more of just an open. It's just an open melee, right? So I don't expect kindness on Twitter. Facebook, I expect kindness because I accept if you click a button that says friend. What is your intention? If you're clicking a button that says friend just to harass me, we're not friends, you lying fuck. So you've already broken that social contract. I'm going to block your ass. YouTube, it depends, you know. Critical comments are one thing. You know, criticisms are fine. It's when they become hateful and hurtful, then I sometimes amuse them for a minute. Most of the time I just block. So yeah. Oof, we're running down there, honey. Why don't you do a little bit more talking for me? My voice is going. We're going to stay on for like another 20 minutes or a half hour. So let's get some other questions in. Let's ask Camilla some more questions. Camilla, show us more work or something.
What's that? What do you want me to
show us more work or something?
Show you more work? What am I going to show you?
I don't know.
I don't know. Well, I have my flashlight out here tonight. I could show the glowing eyes. Actually, I could turn the lights off and show you in the dark.
You could.
Maybe I'll do that.
But for anybody wondering, if you're trying to get a following going, you do have to engage with people on social media. You do have to talk to them. You do have to communicate with people. You do have to make posts and respond to people. And you know, it was earlier for me early on because I didn't really feel like I had my own space yet. I was just kind of like a nobody, so I didn't care what people thought of me as much. Once you get established a little bit more, it's a little harder. But, oh, we're getting some blacklight action.
Blacklight action.
But if you want to blow up, you can't just hang your bait out there. You got to jiggle it. That means you got to show it to people. Jiggle that bait. I wish that did it justice because it just kind of looks like it's lit up. But if you could see how bright that gets when it's got a black light on it and how much it glows.
Yeah.
And the fact that they glow colors. I don't know if that one was, yeah, like see how those are glowing colors?
Yeah, that one was the light blue. This is red. In the dark, it comes through more as orange because that's just what these colors do.
Yeah.
That's the blue. And there's a green. Could get it closer to the camera, you know.
I love the green, especially with the black. Like, you know what you should do? You should do a Nyarlathotep one that's all green eyes or one green eye, and then green paint looking like tendrils coming out of the eye, reaching around the thing. That'd be pretty badass.
I had some mirrors, as I mentioned last Thursday during the day stream. I did have some mirrors that were supposed to be for Nyarlathotep. I could never say it.
Close enough. You can say Nyarlathotep. Now you got me doing it wrong. You can say it however you want.
I don't like saying it the other way. It sounds like a dingus. A dingus way of saying it.
You know what I like to do to help me to learn it is like, I went Nyarlathotep. I just did it like Nyarlathotep.
It doesn't sound intellectual when you say it the other way. This is orange.
Yeah, Nyarlathotep would like also.
I did have some mirrors that were inspired by him, but the tentacles decided to not hold up too well, so I'm back to the drawing board for those. Well, that's about it right now for the glowy stuff. I think the rest are put away somewhere. Oh no, those don't glow. I have some rainbow ones, but they don't glow. I have all the colors of the chakras for the glowy stuff.
Yeah, and Nyarlathotep, another good one, especially since he's connected to sort of like arcane technology, so to speak, like eldritch technology, using things like I don't know, EA got into it, JS got into it. What are they called? Not
Oh yeah, the
radionics.
Yeah, radionics.
All that kind of stuff. Well, instead of just necessarily that, you could, on a mirror, if you're going to dedicate it to Nyarlathotep, do a combination of like, get some old vacuum tubes and...
Oh yeah, I put little gears on it and everything.
Yeah, a little clockwork.
I did a little clockwork thing with the gears and the tentacles wrapping around them, and it looked really cool. And then I used the wrong thing for the tentacles. I should have.
Yeah. Well, you can always do another one.
Then
we could actually see if we can find some old vacuum tubes or something and make it look like something cool.
Yeah.
So, you know what you can do, honey? You know, you can change the background that you're showing if you wanted.
Change the background? What do you mean?
I just realized that there's a button on Skype that you can use. You can actually use your own pictures.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you know, I've always been meaning to set that up, and I just never did. Let's see. What's in this box? What's in this box? Mirror number 11.
Do I use the lesser banishing ritual? No, I don't use that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Some people have a problem with it because it's like all angels and shit. The lesser banishing ritual, the equivalent would be like when I'd go to karate class. Well, my wouldn't call it karate class, just for English purposes. It was Shaolin Kempo. When I went to my Shaolin Kempo class, we'd begin every class with a moment where you would literally try to leave your day at the door. And that is one way to think of it. It is a way to sort of let go of all that distracts you. But it's also an affirmation that you are the source, that you are an avatar for the source, that you are the divine. It is, you know, if you look at the symbolism, you're placing yourself, you know, like at the center, you're getting bigger than the world, all these kinds of things. You're sort of becoming, you're basically declaring that this time and space is when your will is manifest. And the lesser banishing ritual, its components are only really valuable if you understand intimately what they symbolize. And until you do, the value then becomes learning how to do the things. So the lesser banishing ritual is actually a really cool piece of spiritual technology because in practicing it, you learn the fundamentals. It's like learning the first kata of a martial art that teaches you all the moves. You're learning how to intone, you're learning how to visualize, you're learning how to sort of go through a ritual pattern, you're learning some symbolism. It's really setting you up for everything. That being said, it was never my jam. I never liked it. I never used it. I don't care for it. I won't do it. It doesn't work or not work for me. I'm also not into Kabbalah. I'm not into Judaism. I'm not into the Egyptian stuff enough. I'm not into any of that. And you have to understand when it was created or when it was first formed. It was created out of what they had available. You know, when I say what they, I mean like, you know, Golden Dawn, all that kind of stuff. They created it out of the mythologies that were available and based on the patterns of like Tantra or yoga that they were emulating. If you don't know this, one could argue that like Golden Dawn, for example, is a Western form of yoga, like I said earlier, but quite specifically, it's like a Western form of Tantra. And it follows many similar patterns. It just uses an overlay of Western, you know, and Mediterranean and Middle Eastern deity forms to do so. That's all. So If you don't like it, don't use it. If you do, I think you'll gain. What you're really learning is really all the pieces of practice.
Here we go.
You can do that any way you want.
Rainbow eyes.
Higgy says, I refuse to work with magic with Yahweh's name on it. I mean, that's your prerogative. Yahweh means I am that I am, and that is the demiurge. That is the thing. Here's the problem with that mentality of I refuse. That creates a shadow. On some level, someday, you're going to have to not see it as an enemy and reintegrate that shadow. If you don't, it's always going to rule you. By refusing to work with that ever, I understand, I'm not criticizing, there's times I feel the same way. By refusing to do that, you're always creating something that kind of has power over you because you're always going to avoid it. My suggestion, and it's something I'm slowly working on, is one of the reasons why I get into Gnosticism. Gnosticism as a model, not as a literal truth, is a fantastic way of reintegrating that guy a little bit and keeping it at arm's length and saying, well, that's the demiurge. That at least puts it back on the table. Okay, for a little while there, I wouldn't even talk about Yahweh. Yahweh is whatever you want to visualize it to be, but it is I am that I am. It represents the ego of the divine when the divine forgets itself and thinks it's a god, thinks it's a deity rather than the true self. It is the ego in the superior sense. So, you know, a lot of what we see is built out of the cultural metaphors that we have been raised with. If you were raised to not see this as a domineering spirit, you probably stay a Christian or probably stay Jewish or whatever. You know, this is why people who are like Jewish mystics, it doesn't feel weird to them. Like they think of it like Yahweh is the same thing as Brahman to them. They would say Yahweh and Brahman are the same thing. Yahweh would be Brahman and Atman realized. That's what they would probably say. I'm going to go on a limb and say that that's what they would say. So, you know, it's if you weren't here for my earlier conversation, which I don't think you were, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing again. Rewind this live stream to about, I don't know, a half hour in or so, and I rant for like a good hour, and listen to that rant and apply that to the Yahweh thing. And when you do that, you can transcend it a lot. I'm telling you from experience. Don't take them so literally. I mean, you can do what you want, but I'm saying if you value my opinion, don't take them too seriously. You'll find out. Wyatt's mad at Minecraft. He says, apparently now even Minecraft has a way of reporting offensive language. Fucking Minecraft. My problem isn't with the internet. It's the idiot wokest assholes. That, you know, Wyatt, you're cute. I mean, Wyatt's like a young kid, and like when he first joined us, he didn't know, and now he's getting like all, you know, he's like going down the pipeline to the alt-right is what they would say, and he's gonna oh, Wyatt, you're funny. No, I agree with you though. That's the problem with the internet. It's not even that people are mean. Like, people think that I'm mad because people are mean. No, I'm mad because the internet is it's like being back in elementary school where everything is all babified. And I don't mean like they're hot chicks around. I mean babified, like it's made for babies that have like no anything, but it's also very biased against one group of people right now. It's very, you know, if you think one way, you got to be extra careful with what you say, whereas the other side can pretty much abuse you with impunity. And you see this on Twitter in specific more than anywhere else. Like, that's one reason why Twitter is more fun in a way, is because you are kind of like so handicapped that like when you get a victory, it's awesome, you know? And like Elon Musk buying the fucking thing is like such a like hopeful thing that it's awesome. So, yeah, I don't know. Cassie puts it well. I went through the hate phase, the hurt phase more like it for me, but it's balancing out as I go along, arm's length, as you said. And it is a process. Like there's times that I want to go back and read not the scriptural Bible, but like the old children's Bible that my mom gave me when I was a kid. I've read the scriptural Bible many times, but I actually enjoyed reading like the little comic-y version of the Bible as mythology. As mythology, the Bible is pretty fucking cool. It's like Lord of the Rings, but with fucking demons and shit. And it's actually not bad from that perspective. And there's actually a lot in the Bible that is useful. The problem is Christianity in particular, Judaism to a great degree, perverted whatever metaphysical value their holy books had by turning them into religions of oppression and control. There is a way to read the Bible in a non-dual context that makes it magnificent. It's one of the reasons why I like Alan Watts, is because he was once a Christian scholar. He was going to be an ordained priest. But somewhere along the way, he fell out and became enamored with Zen and non-duality and all these other things, and decided not to decide what he was, and just talked about the mystical side of things and became amazing at it. And when he talks about Christianity, it's magnificent how he frames it. It's so much better. And he really puts it in an excellent perspective. And it really occurs to me that not just Christianity, but most of the world religions take an origin that was, we'll say, likely in, Hinduism, Vedas, whatever. A lot of it must have come from India and Greece and Egypt and all these places, and sort of got perverted over time. Not that it just can't. Remember, every one of the Western cultural things comes from the Proto-Indo-European origin in some way. The Proto-Indo-Europeans merged with the tribal people and brought their gods and beliefs with them. And I have a feeling part of that, there must have been a non-dual cult or something, and some very advanced mystical cults that were very primitive, of course, because of the time. But this informed everything that went forward. And I think, in my opinion, and this is just an opinion, I don't know for a fact, in my opinion, if you look at most world religions, you can see a very similar thread that inspired all of them, that tells me that they probably at their source were legitimate at one time. And then they weren't what we see now. They weren't these, especially like Christianity. If you go back in Christianity, go back 2,000 years to the dawn of Christianity, and you have Gnosticism, which wasn't a specific thing. It was a swath of cults, of different cults of Christianity that had apocryphal books as their canon, that were eventually kicked out by the Orthodox at the the conference or whatever of Mycenae, whatever. And they kicked out all these books, and they demonized everything. They made everything heresy, and all these different sects and cults of Gnosticism became heresy. And the irony is the word heresy wasn't always a negative word. Once upon a time, the origin of the word heresy is a Greek word which meant basically like difference of opinion. It basically meant you had it was different schools of thought on the same subject. Kind of like today, you have people who talk about the Big Bang, and they'll talk about it like one way, with one set of theories, and then the Big Bang that uses a different set of theories, but they're so you have like string theorists, and you have loop time quantum gravity people, and you have all these different ideas of what reality is. This would be like the strings theory guys saying, we're right, no, everybody else is wrong, and if you don't agree with us, we're calling it heresy, and we're going to get you burned at the stake. That's kind of like what happened. And the Christians at one time, interestingly, had a very tolerant, enlightened, I would say bordering on Buddhist view of things. Some of them, at least in some of the apocryphal works, they sure sounded like they did. And that was all kicked out and became the orthodox bullshit that we have now. And that orthodox bullshit is where most of the hate comes from for you guys. A lot of you guys who go, I hate Yahweh, I hate Christianity, you hate what Christians have done more than you hate those things. The reason I can say that with authority is that there's versions of those things that you wouldn't mind. I just know Would you have a problem with Mithras, right? If not, if so, why? Why would you have a problem? Because he's too much like Jesus? You have a problem with Horus, even though I'm not saying that that's what inspired Jesus, but Horus has a very similar story. Do you hate Horus? No. Do you hate Lucifer? Because Lucifer and Jesus are the same being in many versions of Gnosticism. They're the same being. Lucifer, Jesus is an incarnation of Lucifer. So, Twilight Shaman of Lilith says, Christianity is antichrist. Preach. Abso-fucking-lutely. It's true. That's the truth. Christianity is antichrist. It abso-fucking-lutely is what Christ actually came for. If you believe Christ existed, I call it the Jesus event because I don't know if Jesus really existed or not. So we'll call it the Jesus event. Whatever that is, if it's one person or a group of people. Whether it's an entity or whether it's a real person or a group of people or a myth or whatever, the Jesus event as the people experienced it versus how it's taught today as religion is bullshit. That's all I can say on that. Yeah. It's frustrating because I've told this story before where when I was young, and I was still a Christian, I would go out into the fields at night at my grandparents' place up in the Adirondacks, and big open property, and I would do martial arts in, under the moonlight, and I would like talk to God, and God would talk back, and it would talk to me in this really sweet, syrupy kind of tone that I recognized as Jesus's voice saying, "My beloved child," this and that. And it was very uplifting, and I'd learned a lot actually from talking to that Jesus being. And then several years ago, after getting a new scrying mirror, one of the first entities I tried to use to contact through it was Lucifer. Not on purpose, it just kind of was like what happened. I was scrying into the mirror, staring at myself, staring at my reflection in the dark. The Troxler effect took over. My face started to get distorted. My eyes changed to like golden serpent eyes. Then my lips started moving. I started to hear a voice. Next thing I know, I was talking to a being that sounded exactly like that being from the field, that Jesus being, the exact same mannerism, the exact same voice in my head. But I saw it as Lucifer, and I'm like, I don't remember my exact wording. I wrote it down. I have it somewhere. But it was something to the effect of, were you the one I was talking to all those years ago? I thought it was Jesus. And it was like, what do you think? What's the difference? Yeah, that was me. And I'm like, were you pretending to be Jesus? Like, what the fuck? Like, am I going to hell twice now? Like, what the fuck? I got like really kind of flipped out for a minute. And it took me a little while to realize that they kind of are the same. Or at least there is a way of seeing them that is the same. Yes, Cassie, exactly. I mean, a lot of the story, she says, the story of Jesus in the Bible is mostly him standing up to the religious authorities. Exactly. He's a very Luciferian figure. If you were to go back to the time of Jesus, Jesus was the Antichrist, to be quite clear, of their age. Jesus was the Lucifer of his age. He was the Satan of his age. There's no question. Absolutely no question. He was rebellious against everything without even trying to be. He was just speaking the truth. He wasn't saying revolt against this and that. He was just saying something different. Yes, you're right. They were both referred to in some way as the morning star. You're absolutely correct. Why is that? Now, the born-again modern-day or Catholic Christians would say, oh, it's because the devil has copied Jesus to try to confuse us. No, I wish it was really that binary and stupid. I really wish it was that simple. The reality is human beings suck, and they twist stories around to make them serve their empires. That's what happens. So, my enemy is not Christ at all. I've actually started to fully integrate that. I don't see Jesus or Christ as a bad guy. I don't hate on him. I'm not one of these people who, gets off on making fun of Jesus anymore. It doesn't do me any good, you know. Whatever Jesus was, real person or an event or a collection of stories, doesn't matter. It doesn't serve me to be hateful towards that anymore. What I am aggressive against, and not against them as a people, mind you, is the organized religion of Christianity. The average run-of-the-mill moderate Christian is a good person. They don't know any better. They don't have any deep understanding of you know, mysticism and the things that we're talking about here. And not even to say that I have a better knowledge than they do, but they don't understand the perspective that I'm describing. And I can't fault them for being Ned Flanders, okay? It's just how they live. They're not bad people. Now, the ones that want to, oh, I don't know, hurt people for being gay or something, they're bad people, sure. But by and large, most Christians just want to be left alone, and they just want to leave people alone. I got no bone to pick with someone because they're a Christian. I've had people get mad at me, send me death threats because I've supported Christians or something. And it's like, no, I'm for religious freedom for everybody. That includes Christians, by the way. I don't want any religion to be squished. I don't think that that's right. Even if I think Christianity is a shitty religion, it's not my job to squish it. I don't think that we should have laws or anything. I don't think we should work against Christian people. I don't think that's very spiritually advanced. I think that's actually quite primitive and quite
Counterproductive.
It's counterproductive, right?
It's also slippery slope.
Yeah. So I guess, and when I look at the God of the Old Testament, when we're talking about Yahweh, I recognize an egoistic being. I recognize a demiurge or a face of the demiurge. Now, you might think that that means he's my enemy, but that's a primitive way of looking at it too. If I'm the divine, what could possibly be my enemy? Think this through for a minute. If there is the non-dual and it is totally divine, if all is divine, then nothing is forbidden. The demiurge serves a very important purpose. That means Yahweh serves an important purpose as a mask for the demiurge. It serves a very important role. It helps the illusion to continue. The illusion is not bad. People have to get this out of their head that the illusion is bad, Maya is bad, the simulacrum is bad, the matrix is something we're supposed to escape. It's not a prison. It's a prison if you think it is. And that just makes it a deeper, harder, crazier prison. If you instead see this as a wonderland, as a game, or as a story like drama, you're going to do so much better. If you see it like a game, think of it like hide and seek. The goal is you might think so let me ask you guys, when you play hide and seek, what's the goal? Right? If you're the average person, you say, well, the goal is to hide and not get caught, and for the person who's seeking, the goal is to catch them. Wrong! Hopefully I didn't bottom out. Rest in peace, eardrums. Wrong. The goal of hide and seek is not to not be found, nor is it to find people. The goal of hide and seek is to have fun. That's the goal. Period. You can play that game any way you want. I like the manhunt version where you gotta look for people and it's nighttime and you. We used to fight actually. We would manhunt with swords. That was the fun thing. We'd all have swords or bokken or whatever we could get our hands on, and people would hide. And then when you found them, you had to fight. So the person hiding could also do like the ninja stuff. They could go attack the person who was hiding them. So it's like hide and seek. And it's meant to be fun. It's meant to be enjoyable. And when I say enjoyable, that doesn't mean pleasure. I mean fulfillment. Like when you play a video game, how many of you guys play Elden Ring? Raise your hands in the comments if you play Elden Ring. How many of you guys play Elden Ring and part of the fun is the frustration of getting your ass handed to you by basic little enemies? How many of you guys would find that if Elden Ring didn't challenge you, would it still be as much fun? If you could cheat and never die, would it be as much fun? No, of course not. Part of the fun of Elden Ring is fucking getting your ass kicked and getting pissed off and throwing the controller across the room. That's part of the fun, because when you finally beat the boss, it's so much more fun. So, the Demiurge represents egoism. And egoism is a way to have conflict. The illusion of conflict. There is no actual conflict. In some ways, I envy you. Because if you see Yahweh as this enemy, I'm not criticizing. I envy you in a way. Because you have this enemy to fight against, or to resist, or to mock, or whatever. You have a target. And so you get to have some fun in conflict with that for a while. But I'm going to tell you with authority, with experience, eventually that too will lose its luster. You'll get bored of that game. And eventually you're going to want to understand your enemy and not just resist it, not just fight it. You're going to want to understand it. As you become to understand it, you realize that you're fighting against your own ego. That Yahweh that tried to make you bow was exposing your ego, because the part of you that said no was sort of your own Yahweh. Yahweh would never ask me to bow or to kneel, because I would never ask myself to bow or kneel to prove anything. I'd be like, what's up? I'd be like, what's up? Like, you tricking anybody? I mean, I'm just kidding. I'm not, that's not exactly what happened. That's metaphor. Playing games with yourself. That's right, Cassie. The divine allows itself to forget that it is divine so that it can have the experience of mortality. That requires egoistic delusion. Without that, the reality that we see doesn't manifest. That doesn't mean that it's boring without it. It just means this is a kind of game. Enjoy it. It's like a video game. One of the beautiful things about our modern era is we have virtual reality and video games to play. And that, if you are really wise, you recognize is a fractal, self-symmetrical echo of the higher truth. The video games we play are actually symbolically the same as what the divine is doing here right now. Think of it like D.H. Thorne is Link from The Legend of Zelda, and God is sitting there swinging the sword around as me, but my sword is intellectual verbiage that I spew at people on YouTube. I'm a game that God is playing right now. And when this game decides to get bored with this game and wants to play an even smaller game, it'll play Legend of Zelda or Elden Ring. And God will be playing Elden Ring through me at that point, right? But all of this is, you know, when they say that this is a simulation, they're not wrong. It's just the part they get wrong is when they put it inside a computer. Like, I love when I hear somebody say, well, reality is a simulation. Yeah, okay, I'm cool with that. You're exactly right. The reality that you experience is a kind of simulation, 100%. Here's the problem, though. That simulation is not inside a computer in another dimension or in a higher reality or something. You're not a computer program. Computer programs are just our version of that idea. When you think about what a computer program really is, what is a computer program? It's a bunch of data statically stored on a storage device, which is accessed by a reading system, like on your hard drive or your SSD. It's accessed and then fed through a processing system that outputs this stimulation on the form of a screen and headphones and all that shit. That's what a program is. Well, the reality that I'm defining for you is a multidimensional, hyperdimensional multiverse, right? In which every possible outcome exists, and consciousness is scanning through that totality, and that multiverse is what consciousness is, and vice versa. It's scanning through that just the same way you can scan your attention through your body, and that manifests this simulated illusion. Because in a lot like when you're reading a book, when you scan the lines word for word, in your mind's eye appears the story. As the divine scans itself, in its mind appears the story of your life. And everything that's possible is in there. Magic is Game Shark. I mean, no, but okay. It's a good, I like that, Twilight Shaman. Magic is Game Shark. Damn, you dated yourself a little bit with that one. Higgigig, don't feel like I'm pushing you towards contacting you. Just, instead of that, just shadow work it. Just keep it in the back of your mind, play with it, and see how it sits for a little while. Does Lucifer appear as yellow flashing lights? No, I usually, so Lucifer is the name that I apply, both as sort of a personified name of an aeon, but I personally prefer the symbolism of the fallen angel that we see from Paradise Lost. I like that, but I also take that. So Lucifer is Promethean, right? Lucifer is Prometheus. In Greek mythology, Lucifer would be Prometheus, the way I treat him. It's an entity that recognized that it is divine, recognized that Yahweh. So the mythology that I personally use for Lucifer, I play with the fallen angel story, but instead of seeing him as a fallen angel like he's bad, what I see it as, Yahweh created this powerful archon, the archon of beauty, or the archon of whatever the fuck, right? I'm just keeping it simple for this. I could write it all out, but I'm just going to tell you the simple version. The greatest archon that he created. It's meant to be its like right-hand helper, right? And this entity ended up having self-realization, sort of like the Buddha. Okay, so Lucifer's a little bit like the Buddha. Has self-realization, realizes that Lucifer is a mask for the divine, and upon realizing that, because of compassion, chooses to try to liberate the beings that Yahweh keeps imprisoned. And in so doing, it goes into rebellion against Yahweh, is kicked out of heaven, establishes its own sort of stronghold in Pandemonium. And I've got my ways of putting this all together in mythology. It's pretty cool. It's not meant to be literal. It's meant to be symbolic. The point is that myth and legend, and even the spirits when we encounter them, they're symbolic of the truth. They're not themselves truth. So if you see Lucifer as yellow flashing lights, what you need to do is figure out what those flashing lights represent. Why does it look like that to you? Don't worry about what it looks like as if that's what it is. Think about it more like those are symbolic of something. Or maybe you haven't quite figured out what the symbols are yet, but you're getting there, and that's what you're seeing. So I see the fallen angel of Lucifer a certain way. And I see it that way because, to me, growing up, Lucifer represented certain things, and I keep those things, but now they're augmented with the reality of Lucifer is not a bad guy or a good guy. Lucifer is just a way to escape the program. It's a way to escape the matrix or to see through the simulacrum. It's a way to realize the self, like the Buddha. In my theurgic practice, instead of going Buddha, set me free, whatever, I don't do Buddha chants. I look to Lucifer as a Buddha figure. And I also recognize Jesus as an incarnation of the same aeon that Lucifer is an incarnation of. Jesus, Lucifer, Buddha, Enki. By the way, Enki is another incarnation that is in line with that same thing. Knowledge, wisdom, enlightenment, all of those aeonic elements coming together, whatever those things. Don't confuse the word for the aeon, by the way. In other words, the aeon of which I speak, that Lucifer is a mask for, there are several words that also refer to that aeon. When Twilight Shaman of Lilith says that Lucifer and Sophia are basically the same thing. What we're really talking about is wisdom, but Sophia is a word for wisdom, right? Well, wisdom, what does it mean? Well, wisdom is a form of enlightenment. It's a form of liberation and realization. So in that sense, correct, I would agree. I don't argue with it. I mean, I don't see it that way because my mythology looks different, but I'm not disputing the connection. I think that they are connected that way. Absolutely, I don't have a problem with that. So there are many words that sort of point to the aeon. Think of an aeon kind of like the sun as seen from the west coast of the United States. Someone all the way in the south and someone all the way in the north, they can both look to the west at the same time and see the sun. And their version of the sun is going to be a little different because their perspective is a little different, but they can agree there's a sun there. So someone from Southern California will see the sun on a bright and clear, beautiful day, and they see a beautiful sunset to the west. Someone up north, near Seattle, it's a rainy, dreary day. They look to the west. They don't see the sun directly. They see a light obscured by clouds, and it's just glowing in the clouds. But they both see the same phenomenon. They both see the same origin of that phenomenon. So you can have different words and perspectives that all point to that same higher truth, right? So there's almost a limitless number of ways these things can manifest. And it's all a matter of perspective. This is why in the material world, there is only the one consensual reality we agree upon, right? 2 + 2 = 4. We cannot argue against that. Otherwise, we live in a different reality. It's just they don't get along. We call it delusion if you think 2 + 2 = 5, and you're right. However, in the metaphysical realm, you realize that there is only the subjective, because that's the divine. And all of them are somewhat valid. That is to say, if 2 people encounter King Paimon, and to one person, King Paimon has a golden crown with 9 tines on it, and it's this big, beautiful thing with diamonds and jewels encrusted, and it's riding a camel, and all this kind of cool shit. Cool. If person B sees King Paimon, but they don't have a crown, there's a star glowing above their head, and they're not riding a camel, but they are in a desert, and all this other stuff. Does that mean that they didn't see King Paimon now because it wasn't exactly the same? No. Some of the symbols are still related, and they're still pointing to something similar that King Paimon represents. So the real skill here that I'm aiming for is to transcend the linguistic symbolism and look back behind it and see the aeon that sources it, that inspires it, and understand that aeon is not a thing. It is a distortion of consciousness. It's like a funhouse mirror with an infinite number of warps in it, and each little warp and each little bulging out and indent is its own aeonic entity, and creates a different warped perspective of consciousness. And that's it. So I guess we're going to have to run because I've just about lost my voice. Odo says, what's going on here? Something's different. Did Thorne cut his hair off? Cut my hair off? No, I didn't cut my hair off. I'm just wearing it down. Cut my hair off. Where did all the thorns go? I don't know. I look like I got more hair now. Thank you, Odo. Yeah, and Lucifer, this is why Lucifer can look like a male, a female, a dog, a cat, a snake, a bird, whatever the fuck, a fallen angel, a ray of light, a bunch of golden sparkling beams of light. There is no wrong way to see it. But I will say this much. It's not that there's a wrong way to see it, but if someone sees Lucifer as a demon in a pit that wants to put them in hell, they're not seeing the same aeon that I am. They might be seeing the same mask that I'm seeing, but that mask is being worn by something else. The Lucifer that they see that's trying to subject them to hell forever everlasting, that Lucifer is more like the demiurge, because it wants to keep me in an egoistic delusion forever, which is the nearest approximation to hell that a divine soul would have. It's not bad. It's not a prison, but it can look like one. To the ego, reality looks like a prison. To the divine, ego is a playground. The egoistic world is a playground to the divine. To the ego, it looks like a prison. And that's the irony, is it's not. So you think these things are egregores, not above us in power. You're an egregore. You are an egregore. I challenge you to prove that you're not an egregore. Examine what an egregore is. By definition, You're an egregore in every way, shape, and form. I don't mean the real you. The real you is not an egregore. The real you is the divine itself. The real you is the consciousness in which all of these things are experienced. That's what you are. You're not your name. You're not the person you think you are. You're not the person who talks to spirits. You're not some guy or some girl with your body and your life. That's not what you are. That is a myth that you have been taught. You are consciousness experiencing those things. That's what you are. You've never been higgy, whatever that is. You've never been that. Think of it like you're watching television. And let's say you're watching television and there's a little boy bouncing a ball on the television. Is the television a little boy bouncing a ball? No, of course not. In fact, that little boy bouncing a ball doesn't even exist on the screen. That's just a bunch of pixels wiggling around, flashing and blinking. That's all it is. Your entire experience of reality, including the spirits you think you've spoken to, are like those little flashing, blinking pixels. You take them for granted as real. You reify them as real, and you get stuck. You get stuck in that belief, and that's why, well, that's one of the reasons why people suffer so easily. They take it for granted that it's real. When you speak to someone who is, regardless of the tradition, say a Zen monk or a yogi or something, who has fully transcended their egoistic delusions, you threaten them with death, they don't care. They laugh at you. It's not that they're brave. Wow, that's different. I like that.
Start of a new one.
Yeah, I like that.
The white's going to turn clear. It's just the glue.
Yeah, okay.
It's going to be the red and black snake.
You know, the one who has fully transcended ego, you threaten them with death, and it's like, well, I'd prefer not to die, but, you know, whatever. Their choice isn't going to be based on whether you're going to kill them or not, the same way it would for other people. It's not that they won't care. They're not apathetic. It's just not the threat that you think it is. Well, why is that? Because they don't take their own identity very seriously. They understand that they are tulpa. Tulpa and ego are the same thing, by the way. If you look up, the egregore is just a way to say tulpa in English. It basically means the same thing. And tulpa means a manifestation of Maya. So, all right, guys, I think I'm going to go. My phone's ringing off the hook again. So I'm going to check you guys next week. If you want to support our work, I appreciate everybody's comments and questions. I love your super chats. I think someone gave me one before, and I don't think we saw it. I just realized that I think I saw like a little...
There was Gin Genie earlier.
Oh, Gin Genie, if you're still here, thank you so much. I didn't know. I just realized that I didn't comment on it, and it occurred to me that I think I saw one.
I was going to mention it, but you were mid-thought, and then it slipped my mind after.
Yeah. So... all right, I'm gonna go, but I want to thank everybody again for this. This was a fun conversation. I enjoyed everybody's questions and comments, and we'll do this again next week. I don't know if we'll do daytime or or nighttime, but I do like both. So let's all get together next week, and yeah, if you want to support my work a little more, like, share, and subscribe. Make sure that you hit the bell if you want to get updates when I post. Because YouTube shadow bans people now, and that can be kind of hard for me to get people's attention. If you want to support me financially, the best ways are Patreon, which, hey, Twilight, it's funny, I say it just as it blinks up. Twilight Shaman says that he just sent me 20 on Patreon. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. It's a great way if you want to donate a few bucks. More of it goes to me than if you do the YouTube thing. So I really appreciate your patronage, and that's really awesome. You can also... obviously support me by sharing the channel. Go to my Etsy and buy my wife's cool stuff. I don't get that money, but we put it in the same joint savings account, so I guess it all works out. Unless she wants to keep it, but that's a good way to support Camilla and me. You go to Etsy, you get something cool. You can also buy my books. Become the Maelstrom is getting a little dated, even though everyone that reads it still loves it. I do intend on my next book being its spiritual successor. We'll see if I ever finish it. But all three of those books, Become the Maelstrom, Shadownomicon, and the Infernal Vampire Handbook, is pretty cool. So if you guys want to support me, buy a book. That's also a great way. They're not very expensive. I get a few dollars. You get a great book. You get more of Thorne's craziness. and all of my ego and arrogance to go with it.
It's nice
And,
to have something physical.
It's good to have I like when people get something physical. If not, at least a really good, service out of it. But I'm not doing services right now, so I'm not going to be doing services for the foreseeable future. They will probably come back in the future, but I want to get some things squared away before I do. It's mainly because I need to work on myself more. I spent a lot of energy on other people last year and the year before. I got to be on me now. So, all right, guys. Until next time. Check you later, and give us a final saying, honey.
Final saying? You know me and final sayings. I'm not good at that shit.
Good enough. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.